Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto becomes a dragon. Sanin part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. You fail. Shouted Iruka through his patented big head jutsu, and Naruto collapsed looking thoroughly dejected and distraught. This was the second time he had tried and failed to do the blasted bunshin and henge jutsus, and yet time and time again, he failed to perform them, much to the class's amusement. That's it from me. Now you have the test on Kekkei Genkai's next. Naruto groaned and packed up his stuff and headed out the classroom. The moment he was out the door, he sprinted for the academy doors and was hurtling along the rooftops and heading for his apartment. Naruto let himself in and he slung his backpack into the corner of his room and he went into the kitchen where he sat at the table, buried his face into his hands and wept. Why? Why does this always happen to me? Why do I keep failing at these stupid jutsus? How can I become Hokage if I can't pass the academy? I need to learn this stuff, but the academy senseis purposefully neglect my training. However, deep inside him a primal entity began to stir. The entity sat in the darkness and looked at the sewer it was stuck in and opened a yellow slitted eye. Slowly Progenitus, the dragon primarch, boss of the dragon contract and Naruto's bonded spirit guide and partner, stirred. It had been eons since he had found an Namikaze worthy of being the true dragon sage and not a sage of one of 13 dragon clans. Namikaze Uzumaki. Naruto, I shall guide and train you. He said in a deep booming growl that ricocheted around the boy's mind, shaking him free of his weeping. Who's there? He called in his mind and out loud. All he heard inside of his mind was a deep growling laughter and an eerie silence in his apartment. Go and see the old man in the tower and tell him I hear voices in my head and they talk to me. The voice instructed, and Naruto grinned weakly and placed his "no one can get me down" megawatt grin mask in place, and he jumped out of his window and scuttled along the rooftops to the Hokage tower. The Sandaime Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen, the professor, god of shinobi and teacher of the legendary Sanin, sat behind his desk glowering at the paperwork and occasionally at the three other Hokage in their portraits above him. Damn you lazy fuckers, and curse Minato Namikaze for dying on me before telling me the secret of defeating the paperwork. He thought dryly as he stamped an "I" across some bill or another the civilian council tried to push through. Nidaime sensei, what were you on when you issued this bill? It certainly looks good on paper, but in action it is a waste of time, resources and energy. He thought as he scribbled approved on a medical bill and a jutsu project. Suddenly the door burst open and Naruto stuck his head in. Jiji. I need to talk to you about something. He shouted excitedly, causing the old man to sigh and place the document he was reading over down and lit his pipe. This should be interesting, he thought to himself as he gestured for the young boy who he thought had been through so much it was unreal and he thought of as his grandson to take a seat. He was not prepared for what he heard. Something in my head told me to tell you I hear voices in my head and they talk to me. What does that mean, Jiji? Asked Naruto, for once not acting like an overactive ball of sunshine and acted more like a young Namikaze Minato who gave him a letter and instructions should his Kekkei Genkai resurfaced. The Hokage nodded. Naruto-kun, your father had the same Kekkei Genkai as you and he called it the dragon line. He didn't tell me what this line contained and what it could do, but he left instructions and a letter. He also left me further instructions to not give you the letter until you were either Chunin or 18 years old. The reason for that was because he made many enemies and these enemies wouldn't hesitate in trying to eliminate you because of your heritage. Naruto nodded and looked at the ground. He was so close to learning about his father. What about my Kasan? He asked thickly, his eyes glassing over. The old man sighed and pulled out a letter. This is one of 2 letters from your Kasan. This one will tell you about hers and your heritage. The other you will get when you make Genin. She also made some powerful enemies, but not so dangerous. With it the old man passed Naruto the 2 letters. Naruto opened the first one from his father. The Heisachi. Listen, I don't have enough time to say hi and introduce myself. I'm really sorry 1,000 times as a massive 9-tailed fox is heading our way. If you're reading this, then 1,000 more regrets that I can't help you with our Kekkei Genkai. Now about it, it's our draconian heritage. What that basically entails is a much more durable body, meaning it takes bigger jutsu to injure and kill us. It grants us resistance from disease with an increased healing factor and a massive chakra reserve. That is all the immediate effects. The secondary effects are a growth in height, meaning all of our family, regardless of what they have to eat, will reach around 2 meters in height or 6 foot. It will grant us an immediate skill or skill specialization. For me it was Fuinjutsu and Ninjutsu. Expect an unparalleled control over a particular element or elements when you summon your dragon guide and dragons from the dragon contract when it arrives. Don't ask me how, but it knows that the family lives on. Oh, and by the way, the growth is a painful experience. Lots of love, Sachi. Don't let those bastards of villagers get you down. Besides, what do they know about Fuinjutsu? Please don't hate me for what I'm about to do, as it's already hard enough, because I wouldn't want anyone to do anything I wouldn't. Do-san. Hawks, prepare for an ass whipping. Naruto had to bite back a tearful grin. His father cared about him, and it appeared he was a selfless man. Eager to find out about his mother, he ripped open the letter. My little Sachi, I'm sorry that you're reading this because myself and your father have died sealing the nine-tailed fox inside you. Anyhow, as you have Uzumaki heritage, I'll tell you about what you are about to inherit. We are known for our longevity. We can live to around our hundreds and still look young. We also have pure chakra manipulation, meaning we can create proper formed weapons out of our chakra, such as chains and swords. We are also blessed with disease resistance, healing and minor regeneration, though I do really recommend that you do not experiment with this. Good luck Sachi, I wish we are both with you. Love Ka-san. Naruto sniffled and tucked the letters inside his tracksuit just as his body contracted and he collapsed to the floor. Don't worry, just the changes kicking in. He grunted as he slowly made his way to his feet. Naruto staggered through the door just as his leg muscles convulsed and he fell down the entire 666 stairs to the floor where everyone outside heard a multitude of cracks, snaps and crunches. Naruto grunted as he felt the bones in the left-hand side of his body break and slowly also through his chakra, felt them physically reform and soon enough it happened again on the other side. Naruto staggered out into the open only to be grabbed by the Anbu and whisked away to his apartment via mass shunshin. So none of those jerks try to kill you, besides you look like a monster. The bear mask Anbu commented with a grin. Naruto looked in the pristine mirror in the hallway from the kitchen and his jaw hit the floor. His entire body looked like it was from Frankenstein minus the bad stitching and scar tissue. His arms were at odd lengths and there were oddly protruding bones emerging from various parts of his body. Suddenly the muscles in his throat seized up as did the muscles in his chest. Naruto blacked out, crumpled and landed spread-eagled on the wooden floor from the pain. Had he managed to remain awake, he would have found his spine disconnecting and stretched itself out, making it long and slowly reconnecting it. Followed by the destruction and relocation of his internal organs and ribsage as they moved and molded together again like a grotesque version of Tetris. Then the boy's legs broke, extended and reattached themselves. The clothes that smothered the young draconian were now in tatters. The last but not least thing to change was the boy's facial structure. All of the baby fat that gathered around his face making the whiskers look like birthmarks slowly receded, revealing a strong facial structure and a slender jawline. It wouldn't take a genius to recognize Naruto's heritage, but hey, they were in a village that most people couldn't tell a ceiling scroll to its contents. Finally, Naruto's skin color finally tanned a bit and if you looked closely on his arms, you could make out fine lines making a scale-like pattern on the skin. This meant with the right amount of chakra the soft fleshy human skin could immediately erupt into scales, making a walking armor that was tougher and more resistant to any jutsu than the best Anbu-issued armor. It wasn't until 2 days later, as the changes took all night and the majority of the next day, which was finished off by Naruto sleeping in his hallway, did Yumi no Iruka come looking. Iruka was possibly the only chunin at the academy that gave a damn about Naruto and helped the boy read, write and all of the essentials of education to turn him into something of a passable ninja. Naruto, you alright? Iruka asked frantically as he practically ripped the door off its hinges and saw the unconscious blonde on the hallway floor. What has happened, Naruto? You must have grown at least half a foot to 10 inches. You were definitely a small kid, but now you must be one of the tallest in the class. Just who are. Then Iruka looked out the kitchen window at the Hokage mountain, his eyes fixed specifically on the yondaime. Now, if we gave that head messy blonde hair and Naruto's skin color and blue eyes Kami. Naruto's father is the yondaime. Okay, calm down Iruka, calm down, just inform the Hokage and see what he says. Mention the changes in Naruto. Iruka looked around at the faint groaning and saw Naruto slowly get up. Hey Iruka-sensei. I'm really sorry about skipping classes, just my Kekkei Genkai awoke and the transformation was really painful. So much I blacked out. Then Naruto realized he was standing just his underwear which was too tight and the remains of his jumpsuit. No. My clothes. That was the only thing that I could wear without being ripped off. My letters. Naruto screamed out, tears streaming down his face as he rummaged through the scraps of his clothing until he found the letters that his parents had written before going to fight the Kyuubi. Yes, I have you. I thought I had lost you. Naruto thought as he held the letters close to him. Iruka stared at the conundrum that was his favorite student and also his surrogate little brother. The boy in the academy seemed to be a complete knucklehead, unable to study, constantly pranking people, but now in his apartment he seemed vulnerable and confused. Naruto-kun, I need to go and see the Hokage about your absence and your physical changes, and then I'll bring you some of my old clothes. They should fit you. Naruto nodded in thanks and hugged the man. Thanks Iruka-sensei, it means a lot. He murmured softly and Iruka vanished in a puff of smoke. Iruka left and a small smile left Naruto's lips. Time for training, let's see what Kachan's heritage can allow me to do. He murmured to himself, subconsciously licking his lips. Naruto walked down the street with Iruka and heading towards the clothing store. Naruto for once was grateful for the transformation as none of the villagers recognized him. Iruka practically shoved him inside the clothing store and handed him several pairs of full-length shinobi pants, all of them in dark blues next to black, and several shirts. Naruto donned on a pair and placed on some metal-plated gloves. All of this is courtesy of the Hokage and myself, rather. The new kunai, shuriken, ninja cord and tanto are, and the clothes are of the Hokage. Explained Iruka, and he tossed the boy a belt of his kunai which he looped into an X shape across his body. Naruto blushed at the rush of affection coming from his teacher. Iruka further brightened his day by taking him to Ichiraku Ramen, and Naruto thanked him by eating the man's wallet completely dry. "I'll see you tomorrow and I'm looking forward to seeing your new attitude." But that Iruka escorted Naruto home and shunshined away, leaving Naruto to enter his flat, routinely tidy up, and then headed to bed. Bleep. 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 Crunch. The clock met another punch from Naruto as he rolled out of bed and jumped into the stone-cold shower, which he made a note to himself to get the hot water turned on. Naruto got dressed and headed to the academy. Damn, it feels good to wear new clothes that are actually benefiting of a shinobi. Good on you, kid, finally getting new clothes. Now you actually look like a presentable heir of the Dragon Clan. I cannot disclose your clan's name yet due to a seal. Now, as you are an heir, I shall introduce myself to you. I am your guardian dragon spirit Progenitus. You're going to become an extremely powerful dragon sage with me as your guide. Now when you get back from your place of education, I shall carry on teaching you. Naruto nodded as he jumped from building to building as Progenitus Jiji told him some of the things he would be learning, such as Dragon Fist and Dragon Jutsu. He arrived at the academy and made it to class just as Iruka closed the door. "Sorry I'm late, Iruka-sensei, you wouldn't believe Iruka," and the class began laughing at Naruto. "Take a seat as you're literally just on time." Naruto grinned and took a seat that happened to be coincidentally next to Hinata, who turned red and tried not to faint. Today people," shouted Iruka through the demon head jutsu. Once gaining the class's attention, he carried on. "We are learning two jutsu, which are the Kawamari no Jutsu and Henge no Jutsu. Both of these techniques are supplementary techniques of E rank, meaning a basic civilian through practice could perform them." Everyone listened as Iruka instructed them in the use of the supplementary jutsu. It took them the morning to learn and complete the two jutsu, and to test how good they were at the replacement and transformation jutsu, Iruka set up a tournament for them. The challenge for the replacement jutsu is this: you are to only use the replacement jutsu whilst your classmates launch blunted kunai and shuriken at you. The result was amazing. The class, consisting mainly of civilian council members, daughters, sons, relations and the smattering of shinobi heirs and heiresses, sucked. Or rather the fangirls and fanboys. Yes, the shinobi heiresses had great followings of the rats, or more specifically Hyuga Hinata. However, Naruto and Sasuke were actually the best out of the class, with Sasuke dodging 10 waves of kunai and shuriken before getting hit by 2 in the backs of the knees. However, Naruto managed to dodge 11 waves, but Naruto noticed that some of the kunai and shuriken were actually sharp. The day ended with a warning that the next days they would be practicing the Bunshin jutsu. "Oh shit, I keep trying this jutsu, but I can't make the illusions, please help me." Progenitus smirked and returned. "Your chakra levels, reserves and potency makes Shinjutsu impossible for you to learn. I will teach you a different clone jutsu tailored to people with chakra capabilities such as yours." Naruto remained emotionless on the outside, a feat he had never quite managed before his awakening. Eventually class was dismissed, and another thing Naruto realized was that his attention span was a lot longer and he learned things easier. Maybe that was because his dragon guide broke it down so he could understand it easier. The rest of the term passed like this. Naruto studied in the academy and trained in his mind. Boy, did he have a shock when he met Progenitus for the first time. Flashback. Naruto woke to find himself face down in a sewer. Slowly he got up and looked around. Suddenly a thick mist rolled in and a deep resonating boom reverberated around the sewer. "Who's there?" Naruto called out, his voice cracking slightly with fear. The deep footsteps came ever closer and suddenly he heard the sound of wings flapping. Then a shape appeared. At first its body appeared and then 5 necks. What are you?" Naruto called out as the necks revealed heads and they connected to a body that was easily as big as Akamichi Chauza. "Little one, I am Progenitus," the massive dragon said, announcing himself, and Naruto did the safest thing possible. He fainted. Flashback release. Naruto was now heading towards the academy. This time it was a preparation test for Taijutsu. This time Naruto failed to contain his excitement as his Taijutsu style, the Dragon Way, had 5 so far different variants. The path of the lightning dragon relied on last-second dodges, spins and redirections, followed by short but powerful punches, jabs, knife hands and kicks or knees to the opponent. The path of the earth dragon relied on the focus of just absorbing the opponent's attacks before finishing it with 1 or 2 hard punches. Water dragon was one of the specialist forms. It was based on the concept of weak on the surface, but strong underneath. It used the arms and upper body for trapping the opponent and utilized his legs and feet to destroy them. Fire Dragon was pure emotion. It was in essence the style of a brawler. Harsh and flashy but not necessarily useful in one-on-one confrontations, but it was the best at one and many type scenarios. And finally the way of the wind dragon, float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. Nice concept, but in the Progenitor Sensei's views it was stay out of the way and make them hurt and hurt badly. Naruto grinned to himself as he considered his options. If he fought Sasuke, well, it was going to be a hard choice, but he would probably utilize water and wind if he needed to. He slipped into the class and took a seat next to Sasuke and didn't say a word. "I won, Ino pig," screamed Haruno Sakura, Naruto's one-time crush. "Why, Progenitor Sensei, did I like her?" Naruto thought to his guide. "Because she was the first person to be civil to you. It's a symbiotic thing. Most Jinchuriki suffer from it. However, I must say you could do so much better than her." Naruto smirked as Sakura and Ino turned to face him. "Get out of my seat, Naruto baka," they screamed as they launched a punch at the blonde. Naruto smirked even more as he pushed back from the desk and then casually tilted back on the chair's back legs, balanced with chakra as the girls fell in a disorganized heap at the feet of their crush. Filled with rage, the girls launched themselves at the smirking Jinchuriki, who closed his eyes and interlocked his fingertips and concentrated on launching his chakra out as a solid web. Almost as if by command, the web sprung out of Naruto's hands as he thrust his forward and he declared Uzumaki Hijutsu. Ensnaring web. The class froze as they heard the word Hijutsu. Dobe has a clan. Several people thought as one. Naruto-kun has a clan. Maybe Toussaint will approve of him, thought Hinata timidly and blushed slightly. Shino noticed the amount of chakra Naruto had and guessed a particular kind of chakra was clan-based and wasn't surprised. Mendes thought Shikamaru and Choji just munched on his potato chips unconcerned. It was at this moment in time Iruka and Mizuki entered the classroom to see the web of chakra launch out of Naruto and trap the girls in midair. "Naruto, release them and take your seats, ladies," he ordered, and reluctantly Naruto obeyed, releasing the jutsu, and they crashed into the floor. "You said to release them, not how or where, Iruka-sensei," Naruto stated before the teacher could launch his demonic head technique. Iruka nodded. Meanwhile, Mizuki decided to pair the demon brat up with the Uchiha and watch the boy get trampled. "Today we are learning the Bunshin no Jutsu, yet another basic technique of Konoha Shinobi," instructed Iruka as he created the clones without any hand signs. In the Chunin and Jonin circles, Iruka was actually ranked at mid-Jonin and in the bingo book as the lowest bounty Jonin ever, with a measly 90 million ryo on his head, but he had the alias Basics Master. It was his skill over the 3 Academy Jutsu, Shunshin, Great Fireball and the Kunai Shuriken Clone Jutsu, that made him so renowned. His skill with these jutsu meant he could make a miniature swarm of them, much like Naruto and the Kage Bunshin Jutsu. Iruka observed the class making clones with ease, except for Naruto, who sat at the back of the class meditating. "Naruto, why aren't you practicing this technique?" shouted Iruka, stopping the class and caused Naruto to look up. "I'm not practicing it because I can't do it. When I say I can't do it does not mean I can't do the Bunshin Jutsu, but I just can't do the illusionary Bunshin Jutsu as it is classed as a henge and my chakra levels and density or Enderjin Jutsu or illusions nigh on impossible to use," Naruto explained succinctly, causing Iruka's jaw to drop and the class to snigger. "That's pathetic. Dobe shows just how superior the class is to your clan," Sasuke said, smirking, but apparently he said the wrong thing. "Want to see my clan's Bunshin? Kage Bunshin no Jutsu," shouted Naruto, and 3 perfect clones materialized around him. These are Kage Bunshins and S-ranked Kinjutsu of Konoha, only to be learned by those of Jonin level shinobi or seasoned Chunin, unless you're in Uzumaki Shinobi, which means it is supplementary. Again Iruka's jaw dropped as Naruto upstaged the entire class. Now it came to the final preparation before the graduation exams in 3 days, and in Naruto's opinion, his favorite part of the revision, the Taijutsu and extra credit exam. He could finally show some of his basic elemental jutsu and fighting styles. "First of all, we are going to grade you on your taijutsu against myself, Iruka, and your classmates," Mizuki explained, and he separated the girls and the boys and instructed them to get into pairs of his choosing, and each pair entered the arena and they began to spar. All in all, none of the matches save a few were interesting enough to hold Naruto's attention. Kiba got ensnared by the Kajime no Jutsu and was forced to surrender. Hinata shut her opponent's chakra network down before the girl knew what was happening. Finally it was Naruto versus Sasuke and both of them were pumped. Immediately the girls aside from Hinata started to shriek and cheer for their Sasuke-kun, whilst the boys merely wondered how long it would take before Naruto got it into his head that Sasuke was way out of his league. "Take your stances," Mizuki ordered, and Sasuke slipped into the traditional stance of the intercepting fist, whilst Naruto slid into the opening stance of the water-style dragon fist, with his body side onto the Uchiha, one arm outstretched with his hand palm up and the other across his stomach with his knees bent. "What stance is that?" "Get into the academy stance," ordered Mizuki, causing Naruto to snort and click his neck. "Start the match." It's my two Sans clan's fighting styles. Naruto replied. Mizuki nodded and began the match, and everyone hushed as they waited for the two combatants to begin. Sasuke charged forward and Naruto dived to one side, leaving a cloud of dust in his wake. Sasuke lashed out with a powerful back kick which Naruto deflected with his right forearm and grabbed with his left hand. The way of water, grab with top half of your body aka your arms and destroy with the lower aka legs. With that Naruto yanked the Uchiha air towards him and kicked out the boy's ankle sending him into the air. As the boy reached the pinnacle of his flight Naruto brought him crashing down with a solid leg across his gut and ribs. Give up Sasuke, my next strike would be one to the Adam's apple and crushing your throat. So give up. Naruto growled as he pressed his foot slightly against the apple. Winner Uchiha Sasuke as Naruto did not use the correct stance when instructed. Mizuki stated causing Naruto to spin round his anger getting the best of him and Progenitor slid his Kai into Naruto's bolstering it. Mizuki-sensei, if you don't quit with a biased nature against me, I am not responsible for my next jutsu. Naruto growled emitting a formidable amount of Kai surprising Mizuki and Iruka. Uzumaki Naruto wins growled Mizuki reluctantly. Naruto allowed himself a grin as he basked in the glory of some of his classmates. It wasn't so tough. He thought to himself. Kid, look out. Was all Progenitor said. Pain. Kakakyu no jutsu. Two voices screamed but Naruto was already moving. He dived to his left as the first fireball shot past him but he had dived into the path of the second fireball. Mizuki smirked as his fireball hit the fox brat square in the chest incinerating him. Mizuki traitor. Shouted Iruka and the class began screaming not realizing the charred log in Naruto's position. Dear sensei try this out Kaiten. Kakakyu Ryuken no jutsu. At that Naruto exhaled a massive fire dragon from his mouth which charged towards Mizuki who dodged the jutsu with ease. Despite the dragon's shape it was notoriously easy to dodge. As expected dragon style. Waking dragon. Naruto murmured using the rat seal before kicking Mizuki off his feet. Dragon style. Dragon rising. Three shadow clones materialized in front of Naruto, each one launching a painful kick and punch into the traitorous teacher's stomach and face breaking or fracturing the ribs and jaw. Final technique dragon style. Dragon judgment. Naruto vanished and reappeared over Mizuki and formed the dragon seal. A few things happened Naruto's chakra materialized around his feet and the boy began to flip. As the boy flipped over the chakra moved onto the boy's dominant foot which was his right foot and became a resplendent cerulean blue dragon head which crashed into the teacher's airborne and defenseless body, sending him into the floor with such a crash that it caused a crater upon impact and the reverberations brought the Hokage's attention to the academy and he managed to observe the entire thing. Dragon art. Dragon flurry. Naruto murmured using a unique set of hand seals that no one recognized before he vanished. He reappeared in front of the last Uchiha, whose eyes widened and then almost jumped out of his eye sockets as Naruto's punch buried itself into the elder kid's stomach. Try and assassinate me again Uchiha team and I will end you. Because I aim to survive this world. Naruto growled before booting the Uchiha in the small of his back and walked off. Mizuki was quickly apprehended by the Hokage and several Anbu on the charge of releasing sensitive information to sensitive ears and before Mizuki could protest, he was whisked away to the playpen of Ibiki and Anko. Naruto couldn't help but grin to himself as he watched Mizuki disappear. Why don't I feel guilty Progenitor sensei? He asked the legendary dragon guide. Because your heart and soul are pure and you don't do a thing without reason, besides look at what you just did. You took on the Uchiha and a Chunin instructor and beat them both. Exclaimed Progenitus. Naruto grinned at the dragon guide. Thanks, Progenitor sensei. Anyhow who would you think would be good for me? Progenitus snorted unfortunately little one I cannot do that. I can only give my advice on potential mates. Progenitus would have said more, but the boy was dropped quickly by several Anbu. Academy student Uzumaki Naruto, you're under arrest for the brutal altercation against Chunin Mizuki and Academy student Uchiha Sasuke. Naruto nodded into the ground as the Anbu bound his hands, wrists, arms, feet and legs, followed by each one of his fingers, and then an almost fatal level of sedative was plunged into his neck. You would be surprised at how much trouble he can get into if you even leave one finger untied, though he does provide very good exercise. Kat Anbu mentioned with a grin beneath her mask. Soon enough Naruto was placed in front of the Hokage with Sasuke and Mizuki on one side and Iruka on the other. Uzumaki Naruto, do you know why you are here? Asked the Hokage curiously his eyes washing over the blonde. Naruto stared back Hokage-sama, I think it is to do with the fact that I used my recently acquired father's clan's Taijutsu style and thrashed the Uchiha. The Hokage's eyes narrowed at Mizuki who was shivering slightly under the intense gaze. What happened? I want the exact details. He finished with a growl pushing a tiny amount of Kai out. Iruka stepped up Hokage-sama, academy students Uzumaki and Uchiha had a spar in front of the class where Mizuki-san told Uzumaki to take the academy stance which I believe had been altered so Naruto would already lose. The Hokage nodded. Continue. Iruka took a breath and continued. Uzumaki said that he would use his clan stance as the Uchiha was using his. Mizuki started the spar and called Uchiha the victor because Uzumaki did not use the correct stance. However, Uzumaki said that if Mizuki did not call him the victor, he would strike the Uchiha's Adam's apple. The Hokage's eyes widened at the statement and whirled on Naruto. Did you threaten your teacher with the potential harm of another student? This is important, Naruto, so don't shrug this off. Naruto's eyes widened at how serious the Hokage was. Hokage-sama, yes, I threatened Mizuki team. Sorry sensei, with potential harm to the defenseless Uchiha because I had my foot on his throat and an open palm thrust on the ribsage, which are both kill spots, and thus I won. Iruka continued. Mizuki called Uzumaki the winner and then he and the Uchiha both sent Kaiten Jutsu at Uzumaki's unprotected back, but he dodged the first and replaced himself just in front of Mizuki, where he used a string of techniques which he called Dragon Style. Waking Dragon, Dragon Rising and Dragon Judgment. What are these techniques? Asked the Hokage and Naruto butted in. They are a set of techniques which involve me knocking the opponent's legs out, hence the waking, then I kick them high into the air multiple times and hopefully turning them back to the ground rising. Finally I finish by pushing my chakra into my foot after I teleported in front of them and flipped over, hence the judgment. It is a bit like the shadow leaf dance and the frontal lotus. Naruto stated, simplifying his complex technique. Okay, Naruto, you are cleared of wrongdoing as you acted in self-defense, but I must ask you to refrain from threatening potential comrades. Naruto nodded and the Anbu released him from his bonds. As for you Uchiha Sasuke, I am ordering you to keep your distance from Uzumaki Naruto at all times, aside from when in the academy, missions or group training with your Jonin sensei. Sasuke nodded and the boys left, or rather Sasuke went out the door and Naruto jumped out of the window. Naruto headed to an abandoned training ground slowly as the sedative burned its way out of his system. He touched down and noticed several tree stumps standing in the center of the pitch. Naruto closed his eyes and concentrated on his chakra. Uzumaki art. Chains. He growled and out of his forearms, 2 crystal blue chains emerged. Each one appeared to be 2 meters in length and covered in a spectral aura. Naruto flicked one chain and the result was amazing. The chain launched forward like a snake, cracking the ground as it soared overhead and with a sharp crack, ripped a hole in the tree trunk opposite him. Naruto snapped the chain back and lashed out with the other chain to the same result. Furthering experimenting with the chains resulted in what appeared to be a telepathic manipulation of them, which resulted in Naruto calculating the potential advantages of telepathically manipulating his chains. Another further discovery was that he could eject the chains from any part of his body. Naruto carried on attending lessons and finally the end of the year approached. Next year you will have the chance to become true shinobi. Haruka called out as they filed out of the classroom. Naruto quickly made his way over to the cliff of Hokages and jumped on top of the fourth's head. I finally graduated this year. Only one more year until I become a genin and then on to become Hokage. He exclaimed, causing Progenitus to chuckle. Young one, now you have completed the academy, your actual training starts now. Naruto nodded mentally and with that got off the Yondame's head and headed towards a training ground. Now then, I am going to teach you tree climbing. Place your foot against a tree and run up it. Too much chakra you get blown off and too little you just don't stick. Get going. Snapped Progenitus, causing Naruto nod frantically. Naruto found a tree, placed a foot on it and he began to walk. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 aahhhh. He shouted as he sneezed and involuntarily applied more chakra than needed and he was propelled off the tree and landed flat on his stomach. Baka, do it again. Commented Progenitus idly as the dragon settled down and began to sleep. Naruto stared at the tree and ran up it, this time making it 3 steps further before coming off. And again, this time 6 steps further. Naruto was beginning to get frustrated and this time he barely got a foot on the tree before he was repelled violently. Damn. How come I can't do this? Hollered Naruto as he punched the tree. He heard his knuckles crack and he absent-mindedly rubbed them. Hang on, Progenitus-sensei said shadow clones can be used for a multitude of things such as training, speeding up jutsu learning, maybe they can be utilized to practice shadow clones. Naruto murmured to himself. Haju Ukage Bunshin no Jutsu. Naruto called out and several dozen Narutos appeared. Alright then, start practicing tree climbing exercise. The clones nodded and began to practice along with the original Naruto. Chakra is linked to my emotions, so in the end I am only making this task harder for myself more than anything else. Naruto thought as he and his clones made their way up to the halfway mark before dispelling. This was essentially how Naruto spent his summer holidays: training, eating ramen, training, hunting, because Progenitus explained the risks of eating solely ramen, sleeping and finally more training. The results of this training regime were quite obvious by the end of the summer. Naruto hadn't hit another growth spurt, but the muscles he had forming hardened and became denser along with his skeleton. Now everyone was in the classroom waiting for the final exams. This was the bit Naruto was waiting for. The moment to show what he could do and how well he could do it. Paper test followed by accuracy, taijutsu, jinjutsu and then ninjutsu and additional jutsu for extra credit. Explained Iruka to the class, who exchanged quick whispers of triumphs and made silly gestures such as punching the air discreetly. Sasuke grunted and Naruto remained expressionless. The paper test passed quickly, with the only incident being several students, Naruto included, had a small jinjutsu on them concealing the actual paper. Naruto finished the test with over an hour to spare. The questions were easy with an exaggeration on the easy. The students were then led outside where there were 20 dummies in the shape of a human being, and each student was given 20 shuriken and kunai to throw, and the teachers would grade their marks based on kill points and injury spots. The shinobi heirs and heiresses separated themselves from the rest, gaining around 60 points for their accuracy, except for Sasuke and Kiba, who both hit 80 and 79 in that order. Until Naruto was called up. "Dobe's going to fail this badly." One of the civilian heirs murmured to his friend, who snickered loudly. "And then non-ar Naruto-kun, just do your best," said Hinata quietly as the blonde stepped up. "Hinata-chan, don't worry, this will be fine," he said, flashing his mega grin, causing Hinata to blush. Naruto cracked his neck and stepped up to the range, his kunai placed on his belt along with his shuriken. "Begin when you are ready," Iruka said before Izumo gave Naruto the nod to begin and a wink. Izumo was one of the few chunin who liked Naruto's pranks, as it gave them the chance to increase their speed and stamina, and as a result was one of the fastest messenger ninja aside from the shinobi postman. Naruto pulled out the kunai and spun two in his hands, and with a casual flick of his wrists, he sent them so hard they buried themselves in two targets' heads and splintered them. Another two flew, this time hit two targets in the subclavian artery with dull thwacks. Naruto pulled out four at once, and whilst they were in mid-air, Naruto thrust his hands forward and they shot towards Izumo, whose eyes widened as they whizzed past him. Naruto then splayed his fingers sharply, and the kunai zoomed off and buried themselves in various painful parts of the human body. One happened to be in the heart, one to the kidney, one to the eye, and the last one buried itself in a dummy's testicles. "Gotta hurt," was the general thought for all of the males present. That was enough for Iruka. "Naruto, let's see what you can do with shuriken." The results weren't as good, but they were impressive. Naruto used all 20 shuriken and hit 10 dummies in two separate places, and each of them happened to be kill spots or quickly bleeding out locations. "Wow, impressive improvement, Naruto, and now on to the taijutsu tournament," Iruka explained, and 3 students entered the arena against each one of the chunin examiners. The taijutsu had improved slightly, but this time it was Iruka who was paired with Naruto, who demonstrated a different dragon path. This time he decided to utilize the fire and earth paths. "Wow, completely different," Iruka said, sweat seeping into his eyes as he held Naruto in a headlock with the boy's arms twisted in such a way that they would break with very little effort. "Naruto, nice combinations of attacks, had to use my experience to beat you. Now then, I need everyone to do the 3 basic academy jutsu." The students nodded, and throughout the playground screams of the basic jutsu were heard. Soon enough it was now time for the extra credit. Kiba demolished several logs with his rotating fang. Shino displayed several bug techniques, and the rest did several other jutsu. "What have you got, Naruto?" Kitetsu asked as Naruto formed a unique hand sign and closed his eyes. "Uzumaki style. Chains." The chains shot out of his wrists, and then to Kitetsu's amazement, Naruto shot them out of his back and he split them into several smaller and more maneuverable chains. "Web of ensnarement," Naruto called out, and he shot the chains at Kitetsu, and to everyone's surprise they weaved a complex web around him. "Drain." Kitetsu's eyes widened as he felt his chakra being drained from him, but as it began it stopped. "See what I can do with one of my Kekkei Genkai," Naruto announced to the crowd, with his chakra chains emerging from his shoulders and the web from his fingertips. For the rest of the day, Naruto and his acquaintances spent the day chilling at the playground. The reason for this was that they had graduated from the academy and were just waiting for their parents to pick them up. "Can you believe they let that brat become a genin?" one civilian said to another as they passed Naruto and quickly flashed him a look of pure loathing. Everyone stared at the blonde, who shrugged in response. Shikamaru nodded, but in his mind he was analytically placing the scraps of information he learned about his blonde classmate together, but only the vaguest of answers was coming to him. The insults could have come from pranks, but that doesn't explain the looks of utter loathing. Those looks can only come from being in the wrong place at the wrong time. The Yondame's greatest mistake. "I need to think on this. Naruto always seems to be covered in bruises on October 10th, but what does that mean?" Shikamaru was roused from his thoughts by Naruto's sudden movement. "I have to go, guys. I'll see you around." Shikamaru nodded and Choji followed suit. Kiba grunted and Akamaru yipped. Naruto passed Ichiraku ramen but didn't pause to eat. Naruto had recently developed a skill for hunting his own dinner and had some preserved fish, fruit and vegetables at home. Naruto fried the fish and prepared a salad, all of which he quickly ate. Before heading to bed he headed up onto the balcony which observed the entire village. Naruto lived in a supposedly occupied apartment complex on the outskirts of the village. I finally made Genin. I finally did it. I only wish I had some people to actually call friends to celebrate with. He thought morosely to himself. Hey Naruto-kun, congratulations on passing the test. Speaking of which, I heard an interesting loophole if you would like to hear it. A silky smooth voice said from behind him. Naruto spun around to find himself face to face with Mizuki. I thought you were in prison. He exclaimed, backing away slightly. Mizuki chuckled at that. Due to it being my first offense, despite it being dishonorable, murderous or whatnot, I was actually given parole. No teaching kids, keep away from the academy and several other things. Anyhow, do you want to hear this loophole or not? He asked quickly, sounding quite hurried. Naruto detected the change of tempo and pitch in the man's, which set him on edge. However, he decided to play along. I'm interested, what is the loophole? Mizuki grinned. I've got the demon brat. If a genin can obtain a scroll of power from the Hokage's office, learn a technique and not get caught with it for half an hour, they do not have to do any D-rank missions. Naruto was hooked, but something didn't smell right. I smell a rat gaki. I rather big one, but let's play along and see where it leads. Progenitus murmured, causing Naruto to mentally nod. Mizuki and Naruto organized the rendezvous point and the timing before Mizuki vanished in a transparent escape. Why do I feel like we have been set up, sensei? Asked Naruto, and Progenitus chuckled. This is the shinobi life. Came the ominous reply. Naruto made his way to the tower, avoided the Anbu patrols, and easily incapacitated the Hokage with his patent Auric no Jutsu. He grabbed the largest scroll he could and he disappeared from the office. The Hokage came round 5 minutes after being knocked out by Naruto's technique. Remind me to put that in the forbidden scroll as a B-rank Kenjutsu. Then the door literally caved in as Iruka and Mizuki stormed in, panting for breath. Hokage-sama, Naruto has taken the forbidden scroll. Panted Iruka, and Mizuki nodded frantically in agreement, rapidly gaining his breath back. Assemble the Chunin, Jonin and Anbu, find and catch Uzumaki Naruto alive, and return the forbidden scroll. The Hokage ordered, his killing intent emerging once again. Deep inside the forest at the rendezvous point, Naruto opened the scroll and poured over the jutsu. Shadow clones, I know. Ooh, exploding clone jutsu, shadow shuriken clones, shadow kunai jutsu. Haju Ukage Bunshin no jutsu. Naruto called out, and several dozen Naruto clones appeared. Divide into 3 groups and learn the exploding clone, Kage Shuriken and Kage Kunai no Jutsu. The clones nodded, and the process of learning more jutsu involving cages and bunshins began in earnest. However, the training was short-lived as Iruka burst onto the scene. Naruto. You absolute moron, what have you done? He raged, causing Naruto to pale slightly before a fox-like grin crossed his features. Mizuki team informed me of a loophole that would allow genin to skip doing D-rank missions if they could obtain a scroll from the Hokage. However, the voice in my men cried bull, so we decided to play ball. Naruto explained before wincing as 3 batches of clones disappeared and the information on the exploding clone jutsu passed over. 1 jutsu down, make that 2. Naruto complained as the second batch dispelled and the Shadow Kunai clone jutsu crossed over, shortly followed by the Shuriken clone jutsu. Then Mizuki appeared with 2 Fuma Shuriken on his back. Well done, my stupid little naive pawn, in getting me the forbidden scroll. It certainly leaves me a lot less to do. Now all I need to do is get this scroll back to Orochimaru-sama and I will be rewarded with power beyond imagination. He crowed. Mizuki, why did you betray Konoha? Shouted Iruka, outraged, causing the traitorous teacher to scowl. Because no one gave me the respect I deserved, not even you, Iruka. I feel like how the baka feels now. He replied, giving Naruto a dirty look. What do you mean? You know the reason for me being treated like shit. All the filthy looks. Tell me. Screamed Naruto, his chakra beginning to fluctuate and break free of his control. The reason everyone hates you, Naruto, even Iruka does, by the way. He just hides it better. 12 years ago on your birthday, the 9-tailed fox attacked the village and was sealed into you. You are the Kyuubi no Kitsune. Naruto stared at them both and suddenly took off on Iruka's instruction. However, what Mizuki didn't know was that Iruka and switched himself and hinged himself into a copy of Naruto. Give me the scroll, boy, Iruka is dead. He growled as he chased Naruto through the trees. He isn't dead, Mizuki, Naruto replied before revealing himself as Iruka, because I'm Iruka. He finished slamming Mizuki into the floor. Mizuki landed on his feet, pulled 1 Fuma Shuriken off his back and launched it at Naruto, who immediately sprang out of hiding. Suddenly Iruka dived in front of the shuriken, embedding it in his flak jacket, which was shortly followed by several kunai and shuriken. Why did you stop me, Iruka? You hate this child just as much as everyone else does. Spluttered Mizuki, causing Iruka to grin and spit a mouthful of blood out. I did, Mizuki. But Naruto is the little brother I never had and one of the best students I ever had. So I will gladly die for him. Replied Mizuki defiantly. I'll grant your wish, Iruka. snarled Mizuki, unclipping the second shuriken only to find Naruto standing in front of him, scroll in one hand, the other clenched in a fist and look of fury on his face. "Tachikaruka-sensei again, and I will return everything you have done to him 1,000-fold." Naruto growled, and before either Chunin could do a thing, Naruto screamed. "Haju Kage Bunshin no Jutsu." In a massive cloud of smoke, thousands of Narutos appeared in the clearing. Before Mizuki could comment, all the Naruto clones charged him. Mizuki screamed as the thousands of clones bore down upon him and beat him black, blue and purple. The screams alerted the Anbu, who swarmed the scene like carrion to a massacre, and what they saw shook them to the very core. "Tommy, an entire army of him. Sweet Hokage preserve you, should he prank again?" murmured the new dog-masked Anbu, and his comrades nodded. They quickly carried the carcass of Mizuki away, and as they did so, Naruto collapsed due to chakra exertion. He slowly came around and he found himself in the Hokage's office. "Naruto, I wish to say well done on capturing Mizuki, and that it will be a B-rank mission on your file. However, do you understand how dangerous this could have been, should you not have been able to apprehend Mizuki?" Naruto nodded frantically. He knew the scroll was full of powerful and dangerous jutsu that, should it fall into enemy hands, could seriously fuck up Konoha. "Hi Hokage-sama, I apologize for my irrationality. I did however suspect something when the traitor mentioned it, so I went along knowing the potential consequences. It won't happen again." The Sandaime looked at his surrogate grandson. "It seems these changes have been good to you. I can see you as a potential for a potential candidacy of a Hokage in the future. However, you still need experience, some more jutsu rather than your favorite Kage Bunshin technique and the ones you learnt off the scroll." Naruto stared at the Hokage, who grinned impishly and held up a crystal ball. "I'm not called the professor for nothing. I do know the majority that occurs in this village." The Hokage looked at Naruto and at the mountain of paperwork. "Gigi, why not use Kage Bunshins to do your paperwork?" Naruto said, with the Sandaime finishing the sentence. "Naruto, consider this your second mission on file in A rank." The mission was to provide an answer for dealing with paperwork. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Then 3 Hokages materialized and with an unspoken order, they fell upon the mountain of paperwork. Naruto left after finding out the team selection were going to happen within the week. Soon enough, the Hokage found himself in front of the elite Jonin, wanting to take on a squad of genin. "The council are forcing me to take the top students and the dead last." A scarecrow of a man said, bored. "I'll take the Inyazuka, Aburam and Hyuga," said a black-haired woman in a rather revealing dress held together with a sash with pictures of thorns on. "I'll take the Inoshikacho formation," a bearded man said with a cigarette in his mouth. The Hokage nodded and dismissed those 3, and soon enough the other Jonin left. "Kakashi, Kurenai, Asuma, I wish the 3 of you luck with your genin teams." Kakashi more so because of those interfering people known as the council and their precious Asuke. With that, the Hokage started on the morning's paperwork with the help of his shadow clones. That particular morning broke nice and bright for Naruto as he got dressed in all black attire and fastened his ninja gear in their various pockets respectively onto him, and he was bounding over the rooftops to the academy. Naruto slipped past his classmates and waited. Haruka entered and read out the team placements. Sakura hollered, Sasuke grunted, all the while Naruto remained emotionless, but inside he was smacking his head against a wall. "Why can't I work with Hinata-chan?" Meanwhile, Hinata was thinking the same thing. Kiba was pumping the air at the thought of working with Hinata. Everyone knew that Kiba fancied her, but she only had eyes for one person, and that was Naruto. After lunch, which dragged by ever so slowly, the genin wannabes assembled back in the classroom, and one by one the genin teams left, leaving Team 7 behind. Sasuke stared at the desk, inwardly fuming at his sensei's lateness. Sakura was fuming whilst Naruto meditated, practicing chakra detection. "He's finally here. Get ready," Naruto murmured, unsheathing several kunai. "Naruto Baka, don't try and impersonate Sasuke-kun," shrieked Sakura, only to find herself looking at the pointy end of some very well cared for kunai. "Shut it, Sakura, otherwise you'll get yourself and your precious Sasuke-kun killed," growled Naruto venomously. Then their sensei made his presence known. "First impression, 2 of you suck, and the other I'm mildly impressed with. Meet me on the roof in 5 minutes," he said and left in a swirl of leaves. Not to be outdone, Naruto vanished in a small gust of wind, leaving Sakura and Sasuke behind. Soon enough the 3 of them were sitting, lying or perched on the roof or railing. "I'm Hada Kakashi, and my dreams, ambitions and hopes are none of your business." Sakura and Sasuke gave their statements, and Naruto didn't listen to them. "Uzumaki Naruto, not too fond of pink-haired banshees and emos. Love ramen and training, and I wish to become Hokage," explained Naruto succinctly and calmly. "Emo, fangirl and a realist, should be interesting should they pass. Especially your legacy sensei, I did everything I could and then some to protect him. Anyhow, training ground 7, 6 am, I advise you don't eat breakfast as you'll puke and it is your survival exercise. Jana." Kakashi finished vanishing in a plume of smoke and feathers. Naruto followed by dissolving into a mist and leaving, giving Sasuke time to leave, leaving Sakura alone. Sasuke-kun, I will have you. Damn you Naruto baka. The next morning had barely broken when the three genin arrived at the training ground. Naruto concealed a smirk as he heard the rumbling stomachs of his two comrades. Bakas, not eating before a test. He thought, for once not having listened to his sensei's suggestions and made a decent breakfast for himself. About time you showed up dope. Sasuke said in his normal way of greeting Naruto with Sakura cheering Sasuke-kun. Shut it the pair of you. I don't want to get up this early to listen to your insults and shrieking. Growled Naruto and the group fell into an uneasy silence. 3 hours passed and by now the sun had fully risen and their sensei finally arrived. Yo. Sorry I'm late, a black cat crossed my path, had to take the long way around and then I had to help an elderly woman with her shopping. Said Kakashi lamely, causing Naruto's mouth to twitch in a smirk. Sasuke grunted while Sakura went to screech only to be silenced by a glare by Naruto. Wow, howler monkeys can be trained. At least this one doesn't sling shit as well as screech. Kakashi had to stifle a snort at the comments his sensei's son made. Kushina-kasen, your son is just like you. I wish you were here. He thought sadly. Kakashi's mother had died when he was 4 and shortly after that his father had committed seppuku due to him abandoning a mission in favor of saving comrades. In the days that followed Kakashi had become more withdrawn, he graduated the academy early and was stuck on reserve genin teams until his own classmates graduated. Then his life changed when his sensei happened to Namikaze Minato. Minato-sensei quickly became the father and brother figure that Kakashi needed. This was reinforced when Minato had called on him at home and discovered Kakashi had been living on his own. Minato had fought with the council to get the young Haddock into his care only to be blocked by the elders, saying that great minds work best in seclusion. Their plan was foiled when Kushina promptly kicked Kakashi's front door in, grabbed the boy's stuff and carried it and him across the village to the Namikaze Uzumaki compound. Kakashi wiped a quick tear away as he reminisced over the care and attention Minato and Kushina gave him. I have 2 bells. Get them off me in any which way you can. Come with the intent to kill. Ready. Set. Hajime. He commanded and the 3 genin vanished except for Naruto. I was told you were the strange one. Commented Kakashi nonchalantly, causing Naruto to shrug and smirk. Maybe so, but let's do this. Naruto replied before rushing forward, lowering one hand along the ground. Kakashi tilted his head and settled into his family's stance. This must be the unknown stance he used on the Uchiha. Kakashi's thoughts were suddenly cut off as Naruto suddenly cartwheeled on his opposing hand and launched out with a spin kick which Kakashi deflected off his elbow. The second kick came out of nowhere, almost connecting with the Jonin's chest, and finally the arm that had been on the floor crackled with electricity which came soaring out from beneath the kicks in a deadly spear hand. Kakashi's eyes widened as he quickly replaced himself with a wooden log and stared as the spear hand punched through the log. Konoha Hijutsu. Senin Garashi. He yelled, appearing behind Naruto and jamming his fingers into the boy's ass. Naruto yelled in agony as he felt the fingers violate his ass. Meanwhile in the bushes, Sakura gasped as the dope of the class crashed and clashed with their Jonin sensei. Suddenly she detected a presence behind illusion art. Worst fear jutsu. Sakura found herself surrounded leaves and smoke, then she found herself in a darkened training ground. Sasuke-kun. Naruto. Sensei. Are the 3 of you there? She called out, then the bushes rustled and the fear began to choke her. She let out a sigh of relief when she saw it was Sasuke. Why? Why Sakura? Why did you let me die? Sasuke gasped with blood trickling out of his mouth and he collapsed, revealing several kunai and shuriken in his back. Sakura screamed and thankfully passed on, letting the pigeons that happened to be floored by her screaming to take flight. Pathetic girl. Kakashi and Sasuke whispered unknowingly in synchronization. Sasuke had positioned himself directly above Sakura and thankfully she hadn't noticed her. Kakashi's day turned slightly bleaker as he turned around and activated a booby trap. Then all around the scarecrow of a Jonin the sound of displaced air was heard as kunai, shuriken, and a few Fuma shuriken whistled into the clearing. Kakashi dodged, ducked, dipped and kawamaried, replacement himself out of the way. Sasuke's eyes widened and he abandoned his post, and the moment the trees vanished, he found himself in an open clearing and waiting for him was Kakashi. It seems you understand stealth better than the other 2. Mocked Kakashi. That statement hit Sasuke's Uchiha pride and recklessly he performed the same set of hand seals in succession. Kaiten. Kakeu no Jutsu. He screamed, exhaling 2 massive fireballs at the Jonin. No genin should have the reserves to 2 incredibly powerful jutsu like that. Then neither are they meant to use kinjutsu. Kakashi had been one of the Jonin observing Naruto's confrontation with Mizuki with the Anbu who went to clean up the pieces. Kakashi snapped back to reality to step backwards with his right leg, causing Sasuke to stumble and lash out for a bell, but only managed to touch one. Kakashi smirked as he slammed 2 smoke bombs into Sasuke's face and dived into the earth. Where is he? Above me. Hiding. thought Sasuke as he looked around frantically for the elusive Jonin. How about below you young Uchiha Doton? Shinju's Anshu no Jutsu. Suddenly Kakashi's arm shot out of the ground and Sasuke found himself looking up at the one-eyed Jonin's face. Nice try, can't let you get ahead of me can I? Jana. With that the Jonin wandered off. After several more individual tries from the Genin wannabes including Naruto fooling everyone with a cage bunshin picking up a bell only for it to be yanked off its feet, they found themselves trapped to the posts. Or rather Naruto was tied to the post and all of his fingers were also tied together. Sensei. What's with the tying of the Baka's fingers together? Asked Sakura curiously and suddenly she was faced with a look of fury. I don't tolerate insults to my subordinates. In banter all is fine, but that is just plain insulting. Insults lead to confrontations and fracturing of teamwork which leads to death. Naruto is known to be able to cause havoc with just one finger untied. Despite that Anbu and Jonin find him pretty good exercise and the results show that our Hunter Nin division is made up of Naruto Chaser Nins. Explained Kakashi before turning to the three of them and pulled out 2 bento boxes. That was an interesting display of skills. I have come to the conclusion that one of you doesn't deserve to go back to academy. At that the 3 Genin looked up apprehensively. You all deserve to go back to the academy. Sasuke, Naruto the pair of you foolishly tried to take me on single-handedly and Sakura you ran around in a daze looking for Sasuke when Naruto was suspended from a tree, not 10 meters from you. Kakashi suddenly cut Sakura free. Sakura, kill Naruto or Sasuke dies. Sakura was so shocked by the order she didn't know what to do apart from panic. As I thought, now I will give you one last chance. None of you are to feed Naruto at all. With that the scarecrow vanished. Sasuke looked at Sakura and pulled out a kunai and sliced through the ropes around Naruto's fingers, which instinctively formed a seal, and Naruto kawamaried off the post, leaving a log behind. Suddenly thunder boomed and lightning flashed, and Kakashi appeared in front of them. You broke the rules. He yelled and the storm intensified. We are 3 and we are 1. You punish one of us, you punish us all. Shouted the Genin in unison, causing the storm to abate. You all pass. Team 7 has officially formed and we start missions tomorrow. Kakashi ordered before vanishing to the memorial stone. Sensei, what's up with this stone? Naruto asked when Sasuke and Sakura had left. Kakashi turned around and jumped slightly, he had forgotten that Naruto was still standing there. This stone is to commemorate all of the fallen shinobi who gave their lives for this village. My teammates are on here Uchiha Obito and Norin, my sensei and my father is on this stone. Kakashi explained sorrowfully. My 2 San and Ka-san are on here. Though I got letters from them but no names unfortunately. Naruto replied as he stood next to Kakashi's side as they gazed on the stone. Sensei, I have a question. Is the reason you have your left eye covered because you were given a transplant Uchiha eye? Naruto asked curiously causing Kakashi to give his full attention to the child he guarded when he was in the Anbu. How did you know? Never mind, yes it is. I'd prefer it if you didn't tell anyone. As for your father and mother I knew them well and I think I can trust you enough to not scream and shout about them, so I'll tell you your mother's name. Only reason is I'll be a head shorter should your father's name ever pass my lips. Kakashi replied uneasily but gaining confidence, looking around and extending his senses. He didn't detect anyone and whispered in Naruto's ear. Your mother's name is Uzumaki Kushina. He whispered and Naruto's eyes widened. My Ka-san was the Red Death. That means my father was the Yondaime Hokage. Naruto finished only to find Kakashi's hand over his mouth. How did you find out? Kakashi whispered frantically. I've been in Jiji's office so many times and seen the mugshots of the other cages and looked in the mirror. Take the facial fat and whiskers away, I'm a spitting image of him. Naruto replied, a fox-like grin on his face. Kakashi couldn't help but smirk. Well, I'm off to report on the fact you 3 passed my test. With that he shunshined away. Naruto stared at the stone, turned around and headed into town. I passed Progenitor-sensei, now what? Progenitor smirked and went to sleep, but not before saying work on creating your own dragon-themed jutsu. Naruto grunted and resumed walking as he hadn't yet mastered the technique of walking and talking mentally. Kakashi was greeted by a fistful of kunai and shuriken the moment he entered the Hokage's office. What's with the unwelcoming party? He asked curiously before looking up at the clock and realizing he was on time. I had an interesting batch of kawaii genin this year and decided not to make you wait for several hours. Kakashi continued and the kunai were lowered reluctantly. Team 1? Asked the Hokage. Fail. Team 2? Fail. Team 3? Fail. Team 4? Absolutely crap. Team 5? Don't ask. Team 6? Failed. Team 7? Asked, flying colors though lots of work is needed for them. Responded Kakashi. Teams 8 and 10? Passed. Kurenai and Asuma chorused together. Soon enough all of the Jonins left the office except for Kakashi. What is it Kakashi? Asked the Sandaime curiously. Kakashi put his book away and looked out the window. Hokage-sama, Naruto knows about his parentage. I'm not sure how he did so. Team 7 reporting for Capture Tora mission. Said Kakashi, and Iruka winced whilst the Hokage smirked. Sensei, what is so special about Capture Tora? I mean, it's just a D rank. Asked Sakura curiously whilst Naruto tried to keep himself from laughing at his pink-haired teammate's naivety. Something funny, Genin Uzumaki? Asked Kakashi curiously, eye smiling, but inside he knew that Naruto had probably seen this mission before. Oh Sakura, how little you do not understand about this mission. This mission has been around for as long as the village has been standing. Because the target is a cat makes it a D rank, however my version is a C, possibly B rank. It is also a rite of passage. Enough of me talking about it, and Sakura thinking Naruto baka is way inferior to Sasuke-kun. Listen, look in the mirror. Naruto finished after impersonating Sakura's screech effusively. 15 minutes later Sakura was fuming at Naruto. How can you be not worn out? She ranted at him, causing him to smirk. Because I, unlike you, do not charge in and grab the cat at first opportunity. I wanted to wait until the thing was firmly between the three of us before catching it. Naruto growled before extending his senses. Thankfully we're in luck as the cat is in alleyway 10 minutes away. This time we use ninja wire. Naruto ordered before vanishing in a shunshin. Sasuke and Sakura caught up with their blonde teammate and surrounded the cat on the building. Sasuke, get it now. Naruto ordered and flung his ninja wire strips as Sasuke threw his, and they formed an effective net, trapping the cat on the floor. Half an hour later, because Sakura let the bloody thing go, a sweaty Sakura, a panting Sasuke and an absolutely shredded Naruto stood or slumped in the mission office. Mission complete, Hokage-sama. The report shall be handed in tomorrow. Kakashi explained, and the Hokage nodded and couldn't help but smirk at the injuries. The next days were like this: learn teamwork exercises, get a mission, and watch Sakura bungle and Naruto bungle and trying to bungle out Sakura. Which results in Sakura trying to hit Naruto rather ineffectively. Naruto dodged a strike and hit her solidly in the back of the head, knocking her out. A month dragged by and the mission success carried on climbing. Jutsu training was also bloomed for Naruto as he now had 10 jutsu. 2 for each of the basic elements, along with what Progenitor Sensei called an Uzumaki Jinin level of chakra control. This meant that Naruto had Chunin reserves of chakra, which were increasing daily equally with every increasing control. He knew that he would never be a Senju, Abura or Nara in chakra control, but he would keep his chakra under control. I want to see rank Jiji. Shouted Naruto one day whilst in the mission office. His Genin team had just completed the standard 30 D ranks to allow them a C rank mission. Iruka stared at Naruto, groaned, Naruto, you're just a graduated Genin. You can't go on C ranks yet until you have gained more experience in doing lower level missions. Yeah, Iruka-sensei. These missions are little more than chores that the civilians can't frankly be fucked to do. Also they use the time to pamper the Uchiha and mess my work up. Growled Naruto, his chakra began to ruffle his clothes in an unseen breeze. Genin Uzumaki. Stand down this instant. Snarled the Hokage, flaring his own kai. Naruto immediately calmed down and backed away. I understand the reluctance, Iruka, but this team is a bit like my own. They didn't work together as well as they did until they were given a near life or death mission, so give them a simple C rank mission. What about escorting the bridge builder? But that Izuna was brought in and promptly insulted the Genin, calling Sakura anorexic, pink-haired stalker. Sasuke emo, depression brat with no sense of humor. And Naruto was dubbed a blondie and probably colorblind. The results were interesting. Sasuke and Sakura hurled themselves at the bridge builder. The former was grabbed by Naruto in a headlock and the latter tripped over the blonde's foot. I apologize for my comrades, but I assure you we are able to protect you sufficiently. If not, our sensei will. But that Team 7 was dismissed and they ran home to grab their supply kits, or rather in Naruto's case, seals. Naruto was the first to arrive and relieve Kakashi so the Jonin could pick up his gear. What sort of kit do you shinobi actually have? Asked Izuna curiously without much of a slur in his voice. Naruto thought for a moment. I'm not actually sure, to be honest, as each shinobi develops their own set of skills. For example, few ninjutsu practitioners or those who use seals like the Uzumakis would pack more ink, paper and brushes. Swordsman would take his sword, not sure otherwise, aside from basic supplies like ration bars, kunai, shuriken, tent. Naruto explained. Izuna grinned. You don't seem to know a lot, do you? He said jokingly, but he stopped laughing with a look on Naruto's face. I have severe learning difficulties. I learn better by doing. I had to use my family's spirit guardian to actually learn anything, since everyone in the academy either hates me or tolerates me. My team hates me. I personally couldn't care because once you become Chunin you may never be placed in the same squad again. Sakura turned up along with Sasuke to hear the words placed in the same squad again. What on earth are you talking about, baka? She screeched, causing Naruto and Izuna to audibly wince. Sakura, please turn down the screeched Kakashi asked as he appeared with his stuff on his back. Now let's get going. With that and Naruto on point they began the 2-day trek to Wave. It wasn't until they crossed over the ocean that things went to Shinigami on a horse and cart. As they passed a puddle, progenitor spoke up, "Kid, Shijinjutsu. 2 Kirinukin, be ready." Naruto nodded and indicated to Kakashi that he had detected a threat. Surprising, it seems Naruto has been hiding something from the team. Not surprising considering the treatment he has been receiving. "Sensei, how did you cope with Obito, Rin and I? Help me now. Let's see who these ninja are after." As Kakashi passed by, the Kirinins launched themselves at Kakashi. The chain holding the ninja together looped around the Jonin and suddenly constricted, allowing the Kirinins to cut Kakashi in half. Naruto's eyes flashed as he detected the subtle Kawamari that Kakashi used and unsheathed 2 kunai, as did Sasuke. "Sakura, you guard the builder, Sasuke you go left, I go right," Naruto ordered, confusing Sasuke. Sasuke heard the order, snorted and charged the one on the right, same as Naruto. 1 down and 4 to go. One of the Kirinins rumbled through his respirator, causing the other to chortle. "Earth style. Dragon Wall," Naruto shouted, and the earthen wall ripped out of the ground, surprising the 2 Kirinins. "Make it 3 down and 2, as these 2 genin don't know who they're dealing." The ninja didn't get to finish as he found himself facing a massive earthen dragon wall. The Kirinins dodged the wall only to hear Kaiten. "Kakeu no Jutsu." The same Kirinin dived under the fireball and charged the Uchiha, causing Naruto groan and dive for the other Kirinin when crack, bang, thud, oomph. The Kirinins went limp as they found themselves in headlocks courtesy of Kakashi. "Well done you two, though Sasuke, we need to work on your listening to orders and Naruto brilliant use of Doton Jutsu. Now shinobi attacking shinobi is one thing, but attacking a civilian. This means you're hiding something, Tazuna, what is it?" commanded Kakashi. Tazuna quailed beneath the icy disposition of Kakashi and quickly explained that Wave Country was poor and in debt because of Geto. "We used all the money we had to fund a C-rank mission from Konoha because of they had lower prices." Kakashi nodded. That was why Konoha was more self-sustaining than some of the hidden villages. Due to their climate and reasonable mission pricing, and from time to time debt payment ensured a steady influx of missions. "What do we do, my kawaii, cute genins? Next opponent will most likely be a Jonin level shinobi?" he asked curiously. "Don't care," grunted Sasuke. Sakura squealed at how cool Sasuke-kun was. But on the inside she was worried. I want what is the right thing, sensei," she blubbered. "Continue the mission for a few reasons. 1. It shows that Konoha cares about clientele. Though Tazuna-san, once your country gets back on its feet you will pay the difference of a C rank to an A rank. Secondly, alliances, should Konoha come to physical harm, Wave Country would help out." Naruto retorted, effectively shutting up Sakura's protests. Kakashi I smiled at Naruto. "We carry on." With that, the shinobi resumed formation with Kakashi up front and Naruto bringing up the rear. Suddenly the bushes rustled, startling everyone. Sakura screamed when Naruto launched a kunai into the bushes. The rabbit happened to be white, which Kakashi deduced as it was used for a substitution. "Get down." With that, Kakashi flunked Tazuna to the ground, Sasuke pulled Sakura to the floor, and Naruto waited and suddenly, using the flexibility training progenitus, gave his bent backwards so the blade circled above him and bit into the tree. "Lamachi Zabuza, demon of the hidden mist," Kakashi murmured, and Zabuza grinned sadistically. "Sharingan no Kakashi, such an honor," growled Kakashi, leaving a confused look on Sakura's face, one of curiosity on Sasuke's and one of understanding on Naruto's. "Explains the covering of the eye. Sensei, you were right, I'm no sensor, but thanks to you I can differentiate chakras within a person." "Sasuke, what is the Sharingan?" Naruto asked. He knew what he could do due to background learning of Kekkei Genkais, but he couldn't find any actual information on what it looked like, how it was activated. The Sharingan is a Dojutsu of the Uchiha clan. It is said it can copy Nin, Gen and Taijutsu. Furthermore, it is also rumored to be activated in life or death situations. Sasuke explained, but even then it doesn't necessarily activate. Suddenly Kakashi and Zabuza began to flare their chakra and the Kai killing intent began to rise. "Manji formation," Kakashi ordered, and the genin leapt to obey. Naruto began forming hand signs just as Zabuza murmured with a half-ram sign, "Ninpo. Kurigakur no Jutsu." And a thick fog began to cover the battlefield. "What is this? Sasuke-kun, surely you can get us out of this?" panicked Sakura as she unsheathed the kunai. Sasuke grunted, "Don't know anything to weaken the mist. I'd only make it stronger." Naruto smirked, "Futen. Ryu Diatapa." The dragon of wind surged out of Naruto's mouth before dissipating and clearing the battlefield of mist to find Zabuza in the middle of Manji formation. Zabuza's eyes widened before jumping clear, avoiding the kunai coming straight at him. He could have avoided them, yes, but he wanted to toy with them for a bit. "Very good, but not good enough to be in my book and claim to be a ninja." "What do you mean?" shouted Naruto. Despite all the training he had done, from time to time he had sporadic impulsive moments. In the hidden mist village for the graduation exam, the potential genin must kill their closest friend. One they have roomed with, shared food with and trained with. Until one year a boy no older than 5 or 6 massacred his entire class without training. Because of these brutal conditions the Mist Village got the nickname Bloody Mist. That child was me. Zabuza said cackling. Zabuza launched his killing intent again, only for it to be lessened slightly as Kakashi flared his own. Don't worry, I won't let my comrades die. With that Kakashi unveiled his Sharingan and launched himself at Zabuza who did the same. They clashed like lightning, kunai and blades slamming into each other and separating. Ninpo. Kurigakur no Jutsu. This time the mist rolled in much thicker and densely laden in chakra. 8 kill points: lungs, larynx, jugular, subclavian artery, heart, spinal cord, head. Now which one shall I pick? Cackled Zabuza as he materialized for a second time inside the Manji formation. This time Kakashi appeared and stabbed Zabuza in the stomach but was shocked to find it was a water clone. Zabuza grinned and appeared then ruthlessly bisected Kakashi who in turn was found to be a water clone. How did he? Zabuza thought then he remembered when he brought the mist in. He copied me then. Zabuza realized and the fight picked up in furiosity and tempo against Kakashi. The jutsu thrown were either A copied and thrown back or B already had been copied. This is the power of the Sharingan. Incredible. Thought Sasuke and Naruto while Sakura's eyes were filled with hearts at the thought of being the one to carry on the Uchiha line. Fucking stupid pink-haired howler monkey hybrid bitch thing. Thinking about procreating with that fucking Uchiha. Can you please kill her? Kami damned Uchiha, if it weren't for them you wouldn't be a fucking Jinchuriki. Growled Progenitus furiously from the mindscape. What do you mean Pro-sensei? Naruto asked curiously. Progenitus had told Naruto to call him Pro-sensei as the full name sensei was a drag. Progenitus grinned sorrowfully. Naruto-kun, when your parents died the village was under attack by the Kyuubi no Yoko. Your mother died shortly after giving birth to you, but not before restraining the fox, so the Yondaime could seal it away into you. Explained Progenitus. Thanks for telling me how they died and what happened to the fox. But who exactly were my parents? Asked Naruto, annoyance beginning to seep into his voice. The Yondaime Hokage and Uzumaki Kushina, the Red Terror of Kumo and the Red Hot Habanero. Progenitus replied bluntly, tell your Jiji to tell you the truth under orders of your guardian spirit. Naruto nodded. It was at this point that Kakashi stepped onto the water and was enveloped in an orb of water. Naruto concentrated on the situation at hand. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. He shouted and several thousand Naruto clones appeared. Thinking quickly Naruto chucked several few Uma shuriken to Sasuke who nodded at the plan. Naruto and his clones bull rushed Zabuza who effortlessly battered them away until Sasuke launched himself into the air. Kage Uma shuriken Bunshin. The first demon windmill shuriken whistled past the first Zabuza and past the second, only to reveal 3 more shuriken concealed in its shadow, all of which burst into smoke to reveal several Narutos who hurled kunai at Zabuza, forcing him to remove his arm from the water prison. Kakashi capitalized by launching himself in front of his students whilst copying the jutsu water style. Water Dragon. Several more jutsu were thrown when Progenitus spoke up again. Naruto-kun is suitable mate and a descendant of the Kori no Ryu clan. Naruto's eyes widened. The Kori no Ryu were a middle-tier dragon family of the dragon summoners. The dragon contract was one of the most complex contracts in existence. It was set up into tiers. The first tier was known as primary clans. They were the 5 basic clans representing the elements. The middle tier was known as the noble clans. They represented the elemental Kekkei Genkai releases, such as the Senju Mokuton. The third tier, the supreme tier, held the clans of 3 or more elements or more commonly the Kekkei Tota, such as the Jinten or Dust release. And finally the fourth tier, the mythical fourth or the leader tier. This had one clan, and this was the clan of Progenitus. Each summoner signed the contract and applied their chakra, then the dragon of their element was summoned, and if judged worthy the summoner was taken on under that clan and trained to be a sage. Because of how ordered and diverse the contract was enabled more than one summoner and more than one sage, though it tended to get rather messy when it came to choosing the next dragon contract boss. Suddenly Zabuza went flying into the tree. Can you see the future? He gasped as Kakashi arrived on the branch above him. Yes, and yours is death. As Kakashi went for the death blow, several senbon hurtled out of the trees hitting Zabuza in the neck. Naruto, Sasuke and Sakura saw a newcomer who happened to be a Kiri hunter nin, who made an excuse to take Zabuza's body away, which the genin thought was normal. Then Kakashi crumpled like a sack of shit only for Naruto to have summoned several clones to catch their sensei. Overused the Sharingan. He mumbled. How far are we from your house, Tazuna-san? Asked Sasuke, taking command which Naruto didn't really care about. 10 minutes walk civilian time. Came the slightly drunk reply. Let's go then. Commented Sasuke. Naruto was aroused suddenly from his sleep, reacting instantly and subconsciously he lashed out with his leg, catching the infiltrator, followed by a 2-handed power slam into the floor, and Naruto found himself gazing into the beautiful brown eyes of a young woman. It's her. The descendant of Kori. Progenitus screamed into Naruto's mind, breaking him out of his trance. I am so sorry about that. Please forgive me. Naruto begged and the young girl giggled. It is I who should be sorry Shinobi-san for startling you. But tell me why are you out here all alone? The girl asked and Naruto tensed slightly. I was out here training. Due to problems with my team and their distance behind me in my training, my sensei told me to work on my own. But tell me why are you out here all alone? He replied quoting the words Progenitus was whispering into his ear. Haku stared momentarily caught off guard by the sudden turn of questioning. I was out gathering herbs, for my uncle he is sick. She replied her heartbeat quickening slightly, but it was enough for Naruto to detect. You mean for Zabuza, Hunter Nin-san? He whispered his hand twitching for his kunai and the girl reaching into her basket for her weapon probably senbon needles. I mean you no harm, I just wished to talk to a child of the Kori no Ryu. Naruto said unclipping his kunai and shuriken holsters and sitting on the ground and the girl followed suit. I'm Yuki Haku of the Hyutin and as you quite rightly deduced a child of the Kori no Ryu clan. In fact I'm the last one due to the bloodline wars occurring in Kiri right now. Haku said politely. I'm Uzumaki Naruto, it is not my true name which I will take on the moment I turn 16 or reach Chunin, and I am the champion of the dragon contract and blessed of Progenitus-sama. He declared flaring his chakra enough for Haku to feel and see Progenitus briefly. Deep inside her stomach began to flip. He is the one my young whelp. He is the one suited to you, the only one who can possibly care for you in the only way in a relationship. Kori whispered in Haku's mind. Naruto-kun, I'm sorry we have met under these circumstances. Next time we meet I fear it will be our last. Zabuza-sama is most likely going to be healed in a week. With that Haku turned to leave, only to find Naruto had placed a hand on her shoulder. Haku-chan, you can always come back with me to Konohagakure. The village adores Kekkei Genkais. You could start over there, Zabuza to him and Progenitus says that he smells deception and trickery on Gato more than anything. I fear he may betray you and Zabuza should you fail or succeed in killing the bridge builder and us. Naruto told her before walking away melting into the forest. Naruto arrived back at the house to find Sasuke and Sakura, panting, sweating and cursing, but somehow triumphant. Managed tree climbing. He asked causing Sakura to give him a half-hearted glower and Sasuke to grunt tiredly. Well let me tell you the fun thing, you haven't mastered it yet until you can fight on the tree for 3 hours, do push-ups and sit-ups as well. Or is that just me? He asked causing Sakura to face vault, Sasuke to glower and Kakashi to smirk. No, that's just you. My sensei and his wife were known to have above the average jonin reserves, one I didn't expect which was my sensei, and the other was in Uzumaki. To actually master tree walking you have to fight each other for half an hour without touching the ground. Kakashi replied only briefly looking up from his book. Sasuke wolfed down his dinner and stalked outside, stating he was going to master the exercise before the night was done, with Sakura following. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Naruto murmured and 12 clones appeared. 3 of you observe those 2 so they don't kill themselves and the rest of you keep watch. Naruto ordered before heading to bed, with Kakashi following, but not before he too left some Kage Bunshins behind to clean up and to bring in the eventually tired genin. It was around midnight when Kakashi dragged the 2 passed out and exhausted genin in. Back as they managed to master the tree walking after 2 days of learning just to keep up, Kakashi murmured tucking the 2 genin up before disappearing in puffs of smoke. The next morning Naruto was found by Sasuke and Sakura, followed by reading Kakashi, in boxers and t-shirt and shivering. I knew water walking was hard, but this is goddamn ridiculous. Naruto grumbled. Spying several trees on the other side of the lake, Naruto concentrated and projected his recent ability to manipulate his chakra chains at will into the trees. Uzumaki Naruto, take 35 water walking begin. Naruto walked out onto the lake with the chain sprouting from his back and arms, slowly but surely he walked out towards the middle of the lake. Pushing chakra into his feet he slowly retracted the chains. The first chain was retracted, followed by the second, third and fourth chains, leaving Naruto with just 2 chains embedded in the trees. Kakashi-sensei, I may have it whoa. Naruto slipped lost balance and launched out with more chakra chains and pushed more chakra into his feet. The 4 chains and extra chakra stopped Naruto in mid-fall and allowed him to get back into his original position. Take 36 begin. Now able to stand on the water with 4 chains. Now to reduce it. With that the process started again. As you two can see, water walking is another chakra exercise. It is just like tree walking except you get wet if you don't succeed. Explained Kakashi and he departed to a tree to read. Sasuke and Sakura along with Naruto slowly and gradually came to grips with the exercise. Sakura suddenly swayed and lost the chakra connection and several things happened at once. Sasuke saw everything happen in slow motion and rushed for Sakura as Naruto launched a chakra whip. The whip wrapped around Sakura and flung her onto the bank breaking the surface of the water. Sasuke lost his footing and fell into the water. Sakura screamed forcing Kakashi to look up from his reading and catch Sakura as she landed in the shallow part of the lake. Sasuke floundered in the water, of all the ways he had to die it was because he couldn't swim. "Help me," shouted Sasuke as his arm slapped the water sending it into his mouth as he futilely tried to keep his head above water. Naruto slid along the surface of the water towards the Uchiha. "Sasuke. Calm down, grab my hand," he shouted, but the Uchiha wasn't listening as usual. Naruto sighed and grabbed the Uchiha by the armpits, funneling chakra into his feet and his arms with unnatural control. Thanks to progenitus, Sasuke was elevated and flipped onto the blonde's back. "Thanks, Dobe," murmured Sasuke before passing out. "Welcome. Note to self: teach Sasuke how to swim or Kakashi. I only know because progenitus taught me in the bath," Naruto murmured. "He's okay monkey, just tired from thrashing about although he did better than I did when I first started. Give him 3 more days, meaning he will have 3 to practice jutsu before we clash with Zabuza team again." Kakashi took the passed out Uchiha from Naruto and they headed back to the house, training evidently done for the day. The rest of the week passed and Sasuke, to Naruto's surprise, had learned the mythical Phoenix Fireball Jutsu, which fired of a small salvo of fireballs large enough for a concealed shuriken to be launched as well. Sakura had developed her Genjutsu dispelling though and refining her demonic hell viewing and Sakura Blossom technique. Meanwhile Naruto on the other hand had been left a scroll by Kakashi detailing 5 other Shadow Clone Jutsu which were Kunai Shadow Clone, Shuriken Shadow Clone, Horde Shadow Clone, Exploding Shadow Clone and Chain Reaction, Exploding Shadow Clones. From progenitus he had learned the 5 basic Dragon Elemental Jutsu along with the Bullet Jutsus. Naruto had quickly discerned through his favorite method of batch clone training that his 2 strongest affinities were wind and fire, followed by water and lightning and then earth. Don't worry Naruto about the vast imbalances between your chakra natures. By the time you reach adulthood all of them will be equal, just keep to the program and everything shall be fine. The week finally ended and Team 7 along with Tazuna made their way to the bridge. The moment they hit the bridge a chakra-laced mist rolled in. Well, took your sweet time, Sharingan no Kakashi and minions. Let's see how much you have improved. Cackled Zabuza. Wind release. Great dragon breakthrough. Shouted Naruto, exhaling a mouthful of wind shaping themselves into miniature dragons as Sasuke shouted. High release. Dragon fire. The flames of the attack melded with the wind and an apam of superheated wind dragons roared along the bridge. Kakashi seized his chance and charged up the bridge and launched himself at the missing nin. Sakura, protect the bridge builder, Naruto cover me with the associate. Sasuke ordered as he rushed the hunter nin. Haku rushed to meet him and opened the confrontation with a salvo of senbon needles which were hard to avoid. I'm afraid Uchiha-san, I can't let you get away. Secret jutsu. Demon crystal mirrors. The jutsu kicked in surrounding Sasuke in massive ice mirrors with Haku standing in each one. Naruto summoned several clones chain reaction exploding shadow clone jutsu. The clones broke into a run, shimmered and launched themselves at several mirrors before detonating with the force of 50 Anbu grade explosive tags. 3 mirrors shook and disintegrated under the force of the explosions. Haku, why do this? Haku faltered when she heard the voice of Naruto. I can't disobey Zabuza-sama. She whispered, please don't make this harder than it needs to be. With that she created more mirrors and pelted the 2 boys with senbon. Sasuke and Naruto dodged, ducked, dipped, dived and dodged under the senbon until Sasuke performed a Kawamari forcing Naruto in front of him. Naruto couldn't do a thing as several senbon pierced his skin. Suddenly a crimson shroud erupted around Naruto and he effortlessly destroyed the mirrors whilst protecting Sasuke's downed form. Kakashi felt the seal weaken and charged a Chidori, summoned his ninja hounds and was about to plunge his hand through Zabuza's chest when a chuckling was heard. Demon of the Mist. More like Baby of the Mist. Too bad I wasn't going to pay you anyhow. Zabuza snarled at the outrage, as did Kakashi. Not being paid by a client for failing a mission was one thing, but not paying them regardless was another thing altogether. Beto, you will pay. Growled Zabuza, fumbling for a kunai with his broken arms as Kakashi increased the flow of chakra into his Chidori, making it envelop his hand. Naruto detected the injection of greed and malice in the air and this fueled his Jinchuriki cloak into its one-tailed form. I'm coming, ready or not. He growled and he vanished with such speed a young boy in green sneezed. Youth. The lad screamed as he began to punch and kick the training post with even more power. Back on the bridge Kakashi and Zabuza faced down Gato and his mob of Ronin, thugs and mercenaries when a feral-looking Naruto appeared next to them resembling a hound of war. Instinctively Naruto lashed out with his chakra tail and grabbed Kubikirabacho. We killing or what? He growled. Naruto contrad with caution. The power you're using is dangerous. Thundered Progenitus. I will, just that the fox awakened when the team was killed, haven't had time to regain control. Came Naruto's response. Progenitus nodded and instructed Naruto to kill the horde as sooner or later he would have to kill. Quite frankly it was complete and utter devastation. Naruto was a red blur of mutilation and evisceration. It would have been more killing and maiming, but it was due to his lack of experience of fighting on all fours, with Ascension Chakra arm wielding a sword that was twice his height and almost double his weight. Kakashi proved to the world why he was in Konoha's top 5 most lethal jonin, as he gracefully cut the thugs down in their 2s and 3s, leaving either body parts or mounds of ash where they once stood. Zabuza was in paradise, despite not wielding his sword he still killed ruthlessly and effortlessly with just a kunai in his mouth. He was killing them so fast he was 5 people down before the first one even realized he was dead. Soon enough Gato was cornered on the end of the bridge, his entire force dead and 3 demons, 1 literally and 2 metaphorically, though that was seriously debatable at this current moment. Gato squealed like a pig as he hastily wrote down pin codes and account details of every single Ryo that he owned in an effort to stay alive. Realsing the act Naruto with great effort forced the Crimson Chakra back. Very well, Kakashi-sensei, and I will let you live once I have retrieved all the bits of information. With a quick cage bunch and all the information had been gathered. We completed our mission, now Tazuna can finish his bridge. Zabuza-san, he's yours. Commented Kakashi as he guided the shell-shocked Naruto away. Gato screamed as Zabuza savagely ripped his heart out with the kunai. Never double-cross a ninja. Oh, and Kakashi-san, Gaki, I've decided to take you up on that deal. Kakashi turned to Naruto, authority clear in his voice. Genin Uzumaki, what is he talking about? Imahavio Fred Zabuzindakuchin Asakanshin Sedos Tart hovering Konoha. Gabbled Naruto. Kakashi groaned and face-palmed. Troublesome blondes, why sensei does your legacy have to be so much like Kishina-kasen? Team 7, Zabuza and Haku made good time heading back to Konoha. Tensions were high, that was obvious. Sakura and Sasuke were sweating buckets that they were traveling with a notorious missing nin, and Naruto was chattering away with Haku. Adobe. Hissed Sakura to Sasuke, who merely grunted as they headed towards Konoha. How dare he just simply offer an olive branch to our enemy. Enemy now, friend tomorrow. Besides, Zabuza has skills that Konoha lacks, plus he might be thrilled at training me in Uchiha, an elite. Boasted Sasuke. An elite for fishchinks for sure, Zabuza growled before turning to Kakashi. Is the Uchiha always like this? Kakashi nodded in confirmation, and Zabuza shook his head in disagreement. Why doesn't the kid simply kick the kid's ass? Mainly because Naruto can't, or well couldn't at the time. Now he just can't be bothered. Decided endure them and get promoted. Hopefully here we are. I'm going to have to ask you to give me your sword. Kakashi pointed out absent-mindedly. Zabuza growled slightly and handed the Zanbatsu over to the Scarecrow. Team 7 returning after misranked mission with a new Jonin perspective and shinobi. Kakashi drawled to the gate guards who had reached for their weapons. As the group headed towards the Hokage Tower, the group had almost swollen to 13 people. Zabuza, Kakashi, the Genin, Haku, Izumo and Katetsu and several Anbu, the latter more discreetly. Soon enough the 6 returnees from Waves stood in the Hokage's office. Had Kakashi and Team 7 returning from a misinformed mission from Wave. The mission was in fact an A rank instead of a C rank. The client lied due to lack of funding. Naruto tuned out as Kakashi went into depth about the mission. Sarutobi looked at the group in shock and with a single hand sign incinerated the paperwork. Oops. He murmured carelessly as he pulled out a sake bottle, paper and ink. Sarutobi ordered Kakashi to go through the mission again as he wrote down everything that happened and everything that went wrong. Finally he put his pen down. Team 7, first of all congratulations on your first C rank and A ranked mission. However, I must caution you about going into complex situations without the necessary training or supervision. I am not going to fine you or put a black mark on your records on the basis of bring back a renowned yet notorious missing nin, and I hate to sound like a stereotypical Konohan about bloodlines, but well done. Team 7 dismissed. Ordered Kakashi, but Sakura then had to open her big mouth. Surely Hokage-sama Naruto deserves to be punished for conversing with a nuke nin. According to the she trailed off when the Hokage's eyes hardened at her. Who runs this village, girl? He rumbled. You, Hokage-sama. Came the terrified reply. Who makes the final decision on these things? Came stern voice laden with the intent of patronization. You, Hokage-sama, but why are we all punished instead of just Naruto Baka? She exclaimed, causing tangible killing intent to rise from Naruto. We are a team, we succeed, fail, live and die as a team. That is Konoha's way. For the record, every alteration between myself, Genin Uzumaki Naruto, Genin Haruno Sakura and Genin Uchiha Sasuke is always along these lines, along with Haruno taking all of my plans and claiming them as Sasuke's. Naruto growled, his chakra becoming more and more visible. What is this kid? His kai is worse than mine, Kami help me. Thought Zabuza as he gulped slightly. Gaki, calm down, the Hokage won't take much more of you flaring your kai, it is bordering the lines of treason. The Jonin hopeful said calmly. As soon as the kai flared, it dissipated due to Naruto hearing Zabuza's words and retracted it with Haku's help. She placed her hand on his shoulder. Naruto-kun, calm down. Eventually 3/4 of an hour later the 6 shinobi left the Hokage's office. Zabuza and Haku to T&I whilst Team 7 split to go their separate ways. Dope thanks. Called Sasuke as Naruto walked off to grab some ramen. It's fine, don't copy my jutsu and we are even. He called back before ordering several bowls of the delicacy that was miso ramen. Several days later Team 7 appeared on the bridge of Training Ground 7. As per normal Naruto wandered off to the lake nearby, summoned several Kage Bunshin, and started sparring on the surface of the lake. Naruto's control over his Kage Bunshin techniques had grown so much he could perform the Kage Bunshin, Taijutsu Kage Bunshin and Kunai Kage Bunshin jutsu with no hand seals and the others with 3 seals, as the most down to 1. The control over his fire, wind and water dragon jutsu techniques had resulted in a slight decrease in seal formula from the total of 5 seals in each of them down to 3. However, his lightning and earth jutsu still needed work from the 8 hand seals down to 5. Progress is progress. Progenitus had told him when Naruto had complained at the so-called lack of progress. Flashback no jutsu, Naruto Gaki, just because you cannot do a jutsu without seals much like those pesky Kage Bunshin you're fond of, doesn't mean you are not making progress. Progenitus said one evening back in Wave when Naruto had fallen asleep. But sensei, how can I keep my jutsu secret and safe from Sasuke team and his Sharingan? I need to get my jutsu down to 1 seal or none. He griped, causing Progenitus snarl at how bone-headed his current charg was. Naruto, enough. You must understand that progress takes time and no matter what you do, you cannot speed up the process no matter how many Kage Bunshins are used. Progenitus thundered before continuing in a normal vocal range. It is better to walk than run. All these Kami no Shinobi can use 1 or less seals because they took their time. Now believe me, you are going to be one of the better contestants in this exam. Now go. Sleep. Then flashback no jutsu. Oh, I want your jutsu. Naruto jumped onto his belly and did a full body ripple back to his feet, avoiding his high-flying clone which collided spectacularly with another, vaporizing both. Forget it, team. I made those jutsu. They belong to me and my clan. Yes, I have a clan. They are just like you, team. Only I remain. Oh, and before I forget, I have 2 clans. Both of whom live within me. So bug off. Naruto growled, his temper finally cracking at the arrogance of the Uchiha. Ahaya my kawaii genin. Lost on the road of life, only to find a memo to register you for the Chunin exam. Said Kakashi the moment he appeared, abating Sakura's temper. Naruto and Sasuke shared a look and a nod with each other. They may hate each other's guts, but they would shoulder the animosity to try and make it to the next rank. Sakura looked at the two of them and groaned, I haven't learned much, I feel like dead weight. But Sasuke-kun always saves me from the bumblings of that baka. Maybe, just maybe, I can convince mother to promote Sasuke-kun and take the baka's promotion away or deny it. The next morning dawned bright, painful and early for everyone in Konoha. But today wasn't a day of moaning and groaning but of excitement. A nervous but exhilarating excitement. It was the Chunin exams and they were in Konoha. Naruto met up outside the academy, his supplies in various pouches, along with some scrolls he had made under Progenitus's instruction. Progenitus was a well of knowledge especially on clan strengths and weaknesses, and upon revealing the Uzumaki clan's skill of sealing he immediately set Naruto to work on them. I thought you would have chickened out, dope. Sasuke commented as they entered the academy. You wish, I want this over with so I can say bon voyage to you too. Naruto replied sharply. Soon enough the trio were stopped by a pair of genin. You may as well quit. The exams are too tough for newbies like you. One of them said, only for Sakura to moan, Sasuke to grunt and Naruto cock his head slightly and quickly cover Sasuke's mouth. Drop the genu omph. He was cut off by the blonde suffocating him. Use your fucking head, these exams weed out the useful genin from the useless, so please shut up. Naruto explained sardonically. Drop the genjutsu. Unhand Sasuke-kun, you baka. Screamed Sakura, causing everyone to force chakra out and dispel the jutsu. Fucking morons, absolute fucking morons. Please let too many of us get through so I have the chance to take some of them out. Naruto screamed in his head, causing his guardian to nod sagely. Team, Haruno, leave this Uber eyebrows and let's go. With that Naruto left, leaving the newly introduced Rock Lee to face his 2 teammates. Naruto winced as he heard the sound of heel connecting with a face. Sasuke just got kicked probably. Naruto entered the corridor to be faced by Kakashi. Aheyo. Naruto, where are the rest? Asked Kakashi from his slouched position from the window. Naruto shrugged. Downstairs last I heard, dealing with some kid with bowl cut hair, massive eyebrows and green spandex. Oh, and said kid probably kicked Sasuke team in the face. Sakura is now crying over it and soon going to start hitting me for not protecting Sasuke team. I'm sorry sensei, but I cannot deal with those 2 anymore. Naruto ranted and Kakashi listened. Kakashi was a man of few words, but he was a very good listener and observer. He had noticed the lack of connection between his 3 genin and the effort Naruto put in to get the other 2 to work with him. Promotion is probably in order should he do well in the exams. Naruto, I have no idea what you are capable of. I should know, but you probably have hidden your skills from me to prevent me from carrying out my other orders to force you to hand over the jutsu you have to Sasuke. You need the others for the next few phases of the Genin exams. Naruto-kun, you have coped so far, you should be able to cope for a few more days. Came the nonchalant reply as Sakura appeared carrying an injured Sasuke. After quick glares and another explanation, the three Genin entered the room only to become the target of a multitude of Kai. Naruto smirked and with urging of Progenitus, let fly his own Kai, causing several teams to shiver and quell the other Kai emitters. Will you lot quiet down? I mean, you're making a lot of noise, meaning you're the new ones here. I'm Kabuto, said Kabuto, who turned out to be a silver-haired teen of a large slender build, crouched over several cards which Naruto managed to decipher as information. Then his main plan of secrecy went to Kami in a handbasket when Kabuto asked his class for information on anyone, and Sasuke asked about him. Uzumaki Naruto, dead last of his class, Taijutsu Low Chunin, Jinjutsu Nun, Ninjutsu High Jonin to Low Cage. Known Jutsu Cage Bunshin and several variants and some elemental dragon-shaped jutsu. Sasuke turned on Naruto, his Sharingan flashing on and off. Dope. Give me the jutsu. He snarled, his hands curling into fists. Alright maggots. Quit the fighting. Save the internal disputes until later. I'm Marino Ibiki and I'm your judge, jury and executioner. Now get ready for the first test of the Chunin exams. Ibiki shouted. The rules were given out, which were a set of questions, under observation and no cheating. Naruto had developed the look underneath from Kakashi and smirked. Cheating, lying, deceiving, backstabbing and assassinations, all things we must utilize. But that Naruto began to converse with Progenitus and he slowly began to work through the questions. Suddenly one of the Amnins next to him popped his arm and Naruto capitalized by copying 3 of the questions. Sasuke utilized his Sharingan and the other clan heirs used their Kekkei Genkai to get their answers. Alright maggots. TNTH question. Get it wrong, you stay Genin forever. Get it right and carry in the exams. Several teams chickened out, leaving 22 teams remaining before Naruto slammed his hand down. I'm not cutting. I'll become Hokage even if I remain a Genin. I am Uzumaki Naruto. Remember that, Dada boyo. Shouted Naruto, causing everyone to gulp and stare down the examiner. You all pass, from here on out it gets harder. Said Ibiki before explaining the last question as the window exploded. The window exploded, revealing a black sack which exploded in a fine mixture of powder and chalk, revealing the sign. The sexy and still tragically single-second exam proctor Mitarashi Anko. And the scantily clad woman that even a numbskull like Sakura could figure out was Mitarashi Anko. Ibiki. 39 teams. Are you trying to make my job harder? Screamed Anko, opening her legs before tilting her head back and sucking all the dango balls of the stick in her hand. Naruto managed to prevent the blood flow to his nose, but in his mind the fox had woken and through the faint crack in the seal, managed to gain glimpse of the outside world, as had Progenitus. So bloody hot. Both dragon and fox declared as blood gushed from their noses and they passed out, causing a sudden headache. All you maggots have got 10 minutes to get to ground 44 or disqualified. Shouted Anko, diving out the already broken window. Several Genin follower pursued as others ran for the doors. Naruto groaned and 2 other Narutos appeared and grabbed his 2 teammates before one pair vanished in lightning, one in fire, and he himself vanished in an ice shunshin. What was that, dope? Gasped Sasuke. What were you doing, you baka? Screeched Sakura. It was a supplementary jutsu called the shunshin or body flicker technique. Allows you to teleport from one place to another. All the teams arrived just as Anko did. Alright maggots, second phase is survival and carrying. You have 5 days to gain the second of 2 scrolls and get to the tower in the middle of the arena. Rules: don't die and don't open the scrolls until you get to the tower. It was then Kiba started making a bad parody of Anko and received a kunai across the cheek for his troubles. Soon enough forms were handed out, which were signed, and everyone got a scroll. Sasuke team, take the scroll. Growled Naruto, unwilling to put up with any more bullshit screeching from Sakura. And that was 2 days ago. Naruto now sat on a tree trunk while Sakura flittered around aimlessly under the pretense of hunting, but when in reality she was looking after Sasuke-kun. What happened? Orochimaru happened. Not even 2 hours into the exam, Team 7 had met the infamous snake Sanin. Naruto had been taken out via a snake gullet and then a blue hand of glowing pain had been rammed into his stomach, screwing up his chakra control. Deep in his mind the fox grunted as the force of the seal on top of his original seal launched the wind out of him and closed the minuscule crack in the seal when it had initially opened. Now Naruto was funneling chakra into his seal whilst Progenitus began to diffuse the seal. Naruto knew of seals and began to dabble, but this was way out of his league. Hucking Snake Pedo, giving us this seal and curse to Sasuke, just you wait, the dragons will have their revenge. Progenitus rumbled as he managed to release the seal, causing a massive overflow of chakra into Naruto's chakra coils, making him emit chakra before passing out. However, the Odo team felt the displacement of chakra and rushed towards it to find a pink-haired Kunoichi trembling at their appearance, looking after two fallen comrades. "Let's kill the shaggy-haired," but was stopped when a loud voice screamed. "Leaf Whirlwind. I am the majestic devil of the leaf. Rock Lee. Osu, get up and neutralize this punk. Wait, I can't move," growled the spiky-haired Odo nin. "Hajime Jutsu, success," drawled Shikamaru as Team 10 crawled out of the underbrush. As the multiple Texan standoff commenced, a small breeze flickered through the clearing and Naruto stirred. Naruto opened his eyes to see the Odo nins, teams 9 and 10 standing around with Sakura shaking like a twig. "Sakura, stop shaking like twig and man up. Odo, give us your scroll. Outnumbered and guns, simple as that." Suddenly the small breeze turned into a vicious wind as a malignant purple chakra volcanically erupted around the downed Uchiha. Black tribal markings appeared over half his face and in a blur of purple chakra, according to the genin other than Naruto who saw him moving clear as day. Sasuke appeared behind the newly named Zaku and effortlessly belly-to-back suplexed him into the floor with a double arm breaker mixed in. Naruto winced slightly at the arm breaker, though he had to hand it to the duck, but he was a dancer and to jutsu the way he spun and manipulated his opponents before finishing them with simple combinations. A scroll went flying into the air wind style. Dragon Net Jutsu. The jutsu caught the scroll with minor scratches to the outside and with gesture with his hand, Naruto pulled the scroll back, revealing it was looped in ninja wire. Sasuke fought the tribal markings back, leaving him refreshed but also wary. Then he saw Naruto and his arrogance return. "Dope, I want you to give me your jutsu." Naruto's eyes flashed crimson briefly. "Fuck off Uchiha, we don't have time for a pissing contest. I just want to complete this goddamn exam so I can become a chunin." But that he swiped the scrolls from Sakura and launched himself into the trees, shortly followed by his other teammates, and not sparing the decency to wait for them to catch up, headed straight for the tower. 3 hours and a messy scrap with a team from AIM resulting in one with a cracked skull, one 2 feet shorter and the other singing with the angels. Team 7 arrived at the tower. "We need to open the scrolls," said Sasuke, snatching the scrolls off Naruto and opening them only for them to start billowing smoke. Soon enough Iruka stood in front of the 3 genin. "I need to get out of here, Iruka-sensei. How many other teams are here?" asked Naruto. "Teams 8 and 9 along with a team from AIM, Kusa and Suna, and now you, so 5 others," replied Iruka. The moment the team landed in the tower, they split up. Naruto went to train, leaving Sasuke and Sakura together. Sasuke fumed and stalked after Naruto to train as well. Naruto had found a private training room only to suddenly find himself being pelted by ice. "Haku-chan. What you doing here?" asked Naruto, raising his head up from the floor to find the heiress of the ice dragon smiling at him. "I'm here as a medical ninja to give emergency aid to those really needed. I was just practicing my Hyoten, and you startled me," she replied, pulling Naruto to his feet. "That's the thing, Haku-chan, earlier on today when I used my Shunshuns I developed a nice one. I think the next stage of my Kekkei Genkai is awakening, and I need your help to master Hyoten before the others awaken," explained Naruto, funneling wind into one hand and water in the other before making an icy hurricane. Haku nodded at Naruto's skill to make the hurricane. "It seems you're talented at utilizing your guardian's chakra to augment your water chakra to make a compatible ice. So the first thing you need to do is make the water rise up. Then you make a whirlpool and then a whirlpool with the water elevated without wind chakra," ordered Haku. Naruto nodded and grabbed one of the bowls in the room that were filled with water. Sasuke meanwhile snarled in frustration at the fact he had lost his bright orange comrade. "How can you lose someone dressed in bright orange?" he snarled mentally, causing the curse mark to burn slightly. Eventually the remaining days passed by and Naruto had managed to master the first stage of water manipulation and half of the second stage. He could rotate the water to make a whirlpool, but not successfully to maintain a hollow center. Congratulations on passing the second stage of the Chunin exams. However, the next stage will require the 10 best genin, and there happens to be far more than that, so a preliminary tournament must commence," ordered the Hokage after giving a speech about the history of the Chunin exams. The Hokage then introduced the proctor of the exam, Heiichi Eko, who introduced the screens of death. The Yoroi Akado vs Sasuke Uchiha came up on the screens, and the pair remained on the floor. Certainly didn't waste time. Sasuke thought as he and Yoroi waited to start. "No rules, I will stop you if one can't carry on. Ready, fight," Heiichi shouted before vanishing in a plume of smoke. Yoroi launched himself forward, his left hand coated in chakra. Sasuke stumbled and screamed as the chakra-coated hand landed on his head, forcing Sasuke backwards and to the floor. "I'm going to drain you of your chakra so you will have to use Lord Orochimaru's gift. Jai Jutsu. Curse mark of heaven transfer." Yoroi growled and out of his mouth came a miniature head of Orochimaru which bit down on Sasuke's neck, implanting the deadly mark. Sasuke grunted and he gripped the hand, draining his chakra, and pushed Yoroi backwards. "I have no idea what this mark does with my chakra, but I'm going to beat you," He snarled, diving forward and launching himself across the floor and vanishing. Where'd he go? Yoroi thought before a foot smashed into his gut and plexus, lifting him skyward. Grimacing, Sasuke followed his Sharingan, blaring with black marks crossing one side of his face. I may have copied some of that, but here on out this is all mine. Sasuke mocked. Suddenly the curse mark flared and receded. I won't let this control me. I am no one's puppet. With that he kicked Yoroi in the side, which was blocked, but Sasuke, and grabbed the opponent's shirt, which allowed the Uchiha to attack the other side, which he opened with a backhand above the heart. This sudden attack halted Yoroi's ascent, and for a moment he lay suspended in midair. Game over. Sasuke murmured before turning himself over, and Yoroi began to freefall back. Back here, I'm not done yet. Lion's barrage. Sasuke shouted before slamming his foot into Yoroi's stomach and sent him crashing into the ground. Sasuke landed on his feet and swayed. Sasuke Uchiha wins. Hayate called out, and the medics rushed Yoroi away, and Sasuke was shunshed away by Kakashi to get the curse mark sealed. The next match was mildly interesting. Zaku and Shino were next, and they stared each other down. If you fight me here, you'll never fight again. I suggest you forfeit. The young Abiram commented, infuriating Zaku. I'll never forfeit. Decapitating airwave. Zaku shouted, revealing his uninjured arm, and channeled a focus blast of wind towards the Abiram, who dissolved into bugs. The real Shino appeared behind Zaku. Never let the enemy get behind you, one arm won't do this. He commented offhandedly as he blocked the jab from Zaku. Air slicer. Zaku shouted, and the arena dissolved into dusk as Shino was blasted away. Meanwhile, up in the stands, Kiba and Hinata gasped that Shino was getting thrown around like a ragdoll. It all came to an abrupt end when Shino commented he had blocked Zaku's air tubes when Zaku had tried to punch him earlier. Foolishly calling the Abiram's bluff, Zaku shouted double extreme decapitating airwaves. Then the sound of metal, flesh, bone and muscle was heard throughout the room as Zaku's arms exploded. Shino Abiram is the winner. Next match. Hayate hacked out. The third match was between Yoroi's teammate and Kankuro of the Sand. The teammate used his bloodline to soften his bones and wrap Kankuro up and threatened to snap his neck if Kankuro didn't forfeit. However, Kankuro revealed to have swapped himself with his puppet and used the puppet to break the Elastic Boy's bones. Pathetic. Next match, Haruno, Sakura and Yamanaka. Two incompetent monkeys. Please Ino, be better than Sakura. Naruto prayed desperately to Kami. It was disappointing to say the least. Sakura and Ino showed their skill in the basic jutsu. The only saving grace was the fact both genin knocked themselves out. Kakashi sweat-dropped at how ineffective Sakura was. Tenten vs Temari was unfair on Tenten. It took 5 minutes for Temari to reveal her entire battle fan and destroy Tenten's ultimate attack and painfully incapacitate the panda-looking girl. Anyone but Temari and she would have annihilated them. Several fighters and Jonin thought. The other matches came and went. Sarutobi was quite surprised at the potential of the successful genin. Naruto had proven his immense durability and mastery of the Cage Bunshin to beat Kiba in Yuzuka, followed by Cage Bunshin assisted Lion's Barrage Dance of the Leaf Shadow. Naruto then effortlessly unleashed a Futen. Draconic Great Breakthrough in Futen. Dragon Palm. Hinata and Niji Hyuga was a bloodbath which Niji combined formidable psychological warfare with his natural prodigy skills to defeat his cousin. However, it required several Jonin to intervene, including him, as the hate-filled Hyuga went for the kill, and Harry had to restrain the Hyuga in a subjugate chokehold, with Guy, Kurenai, Kakashi and Hayate forming a barrier between the two Hyuga. Ara almost killed Lee with his Jinchuriki-possessed sand, and Dosu defeated Choji with a well-placed shot from his Melody arm. Hayate noted down the competitors and came round with a box of numbers for each competitor to decide their lineup in the final. The month passed by rather quickly, but for Naruto, it was one of the few times he had let his frustration out because of Kakashi only giving him 5 jutsu compared to the 15 combined he had given his Banshee and thieving teammate. Then the Scarecrow had decided to hoist him on closet pervert Sensei Abisu. Naruto quickly dealt with that by tricking Abisu into thinking he was groping a young girl near the onsen when it was an all-day ladies' day. The results were satisfying, causing several major nosebleeds in the village, one in the Hokage Tower and the other Naruto's impromptu sensei Jiraiya. Jiraiya and Haku between them improved his chakra control and discovered a glaring weakness. Naruto-kun, a master of the elements, must be able to mix and match the elements on a whim, but it seems you have a delay for the nature to dissipate and then switch to another. That lag could be fatal. Haku explained after catching the visible question marks floating around her crush's head after Jiraiya gave him an incredibly complex explanation about his multiple nature weakness. Haku-chan, you're saying because of the imbalance between my elemental natures, large chakra reserves and the fuzzy in my gut, my greatest strength is also my greatest weakness. Naruto summarized to 2 nods. The Gaki finally understands. Shouted Jiraiya, beginning a weird dance only to find himself jumping away from corporeal chakra chains shooting out of Naruto's arms. I have learning difficulties, meaning I do not understand complex statements easily. Growled Naruto, hearing that Jiraiya stopped. You mean like words floating off the page? Bad coordination. Unable to sit still. You have dyslexia and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, Kami. I'm sorry, I should have recognized the signs. I have a minor case of both. Tell you what, we still have 2 weeks left of the training month. I'll help you improve your reading, writing and chakra control. Stated Jiraiya. With the help of shadow clones, Naruto drastically felt the neglected skills in the academy dramatically increased. You're finally shaping up to be a Rakudame or Nanadame Cage hopeful. Commented Progenitus Nightly. Naruto shook his head and carried on his spar with Jiraiya. This was yet another weakness he had found himself. He needed breathing room to speak to Progenitus, something a fight didn't provide, so, hence the spar and communication procedure. Later on that night, a man was murdered on the roofs of Konoha. Someone had whacked Heiichiko, one of the best swordsmen the village had, and his body wasn't found until the next morning. Everyone stopped training, even the visitors. The funeral was nice and brief, and it rained. Rained harder than ever. Naruto began to wonder if it always rained when a shinobi of Konoha died. Finally, the day of the exams came around. Naruto only just made it to the arena on time. Just about on time, kid. Anyway, the powers that be have done a little changing around. You're facing Uchiha Sasuke whilst Neji is facing Subaku no Gaara. Naruto had to restrain a snarl, since the clusterfuck of the wave mission, Sasuke had been using his Sharingan to try and copy several of his jutsu. But thankfully, due to the dubious potential brain damaging and did he remember potentially fatal method of clone spamming, he had reduced the majority of his jutsu to on average 3 hand seals. I understood. Replied Naruto and basked in the applause of the crowd. Meanwhile, up in the cage booth, the Ho and Kazekijas sat down and waited for the combats to begin. It appeared Sasuke wouldn't be there on time, so Genma began to the tournament. Hyuga Neji and Sabaku no Gaara remain. He ordered, and the Hyuga prodigy and Jinchuriki remained in the stadium. Hajime! Shouted Genma before vanishing to the high ground as Gaara's sand ejected itself out of its gourd. Neji slipped into the official stance of the Jukin. Observe, Hanabi Neji, your cousin has the thickest Hyuga blood to ever present itself in the clan. Explained Hyuga Hiashi. As if an unspoken command was given, the sand surged forwards. Neji activated his Byakugan and jumped backwards as 2 massive sand claws sift their way out of the sand. Impossible chakra levels, he's only a kid. Time to show him why the Hyuga are superior. Neho thought as he landed just outside the range of the sand. Flicking his wrists, Neji hurled several chakra-enhanced kunai and shuriken, a tire-haired sociopath. The sand surged up in front of Gaara, plucking the projectiles out of the air. Your blood satisfactory, mother happy, prefer Uchiha. Rasped Gaara as he felt Shukaku stir in his mind. What am I against? Okay Neji, stay calm, you're a prodigy of the Hyuga clan. Shut off his chakra. Neji told himself and undid his weights. Neji's weights crashed into the floor and he charged forward. 8 trigrams 64 palms. Neji murmured and the world descended into blackness, and Gaara found himself in a yin-yang symbol, and the blows descended upon him. Gaara refused to scream as the blows connected solidly with his chakra circuit and knocked him backwards. Slowly but surely the backpedaling sped up, and upon the last blow, Gaara was propelled backwards like a geyser, connecting solidly with the arena wall. Impossible. That's the 8 trigrams 64 palms of heaven. How did he learn that? Thought Hiashi as he subconsciously leant forward, intent on seeing what else his nephew had up his sleeve. Maybe Neji will help me learn that. I know the 8, 16 and 24 palms perfectly. I'm getting there at the 32 palms, maybe he can help me. It seems he despises Nichan as much as the rest of the clan. Thought Hanabi. Winner Genma began to say, only to jump back as Gaara materialized out of the sand on the floor. Impressive, if not for my clone, you would have won. Sand spikes. Rumbled Gaara, and several sharp spikes of sand erupted around his feet, sending Neji backwards like a spider. Sand bullets. Then the spikes morphed into a pillar of sand, which then began to spit fingertip-sized bullets at Neji, who had to employ his Byakugan to dodge, duck and dive out the way of the bullets, which managed to crack the foundations of the arena. 8 trigrams revolving heaven. Shouted Neji, and he began to spin rapidly, pushing his chakra one way and himself another, erecting a dome of bright blue chakra, effortlessly deflecting the remaining bullets. Gaara, beginning to mentally lose ground to Shukaku, took a few steps forwards and released his sand armor, thinking his opponent was done for. Sand burial, Gaara declared. The sand swallowed Neji only for him to disappear in a plume of smoke, revealing a wooden log. 8 trigrams 64 palms. The Hyuga declared. Whereas last time Shukaku had sluggishly managed to clear the chakra out of Gaara, this time he was removing the blocks almost immediately as they come. I can't beat this one. How can he have so much chakra and be able to remove my stoppers? Neji pressed on the assault regardless. He hammered home several more chakra shots, even several at the tandem. Sand breakthrough. shouted Gaara, exhaling a cloud of sand shards which buffeted and shredded Neji and pushed the boy back. Only for him to activate his revolving heaven again. Surrender, Hyuga mother will spare you. Gaara rasped as his body suddenly spasmed due to his tailed beast, wanting him to shred the boy limb from limb. Never. My destiny is to die and serve the main branch of the Hyuga, you know nothing of sparing life. 8 trigrams 1 Neji shouted and suddenly stopped and blood erupted from his mouth. Neji looked down and saw a spear of sand protruding from his back and emerging out the front. Good news, it hadn't hit anything major like the spine, lungs and the heart, but it had caught his stomach. The crowd stopped and watched the spear disintegrate and remove itself from its victim, and the sand spattered with blood retracted into the gourd. Winner Sabaku no Gaara. Declared a slightly green Genma. The good match, Hokage Dono, I don't think they are ready yet for Chunin. Gaara still needs to curb his bloody tendencies, whilst Hyuga-san could have been the Chunin lost it due to losing his cool. Said the Kazekage before licking his lips. The Hokage nodded and grunted in agreement. Game over, Orochimaru. I met the Yondaime Kazekage a few times, and he never did care about his children that much. He even tried to kill Gaara a few times. I never did that to Naruto, though I have suspicions on who did and who switched the fights around. The Sandaime thought darkly. I must agree, Kazekage-sama, with your assessment of the first round of combatants. Now let us get on with the second fight. In the stadium, the Shinobi Council had gathered and were taking notes and commenting on the fighters, deciding if they should receive recommendations for promotions. Decided then, none of the fighters to receive a promotion. A psyche check on Hyuga Neji and allow him entry to the next Chunin exams. Questioned Aburam Shibi, to which he received a majority vote. The old genin, what they didn't realize was there were multiple ways to become Chunin. One was to impress the judges in the exams, a battlefield promotion. A good amount of effective and successful missions with recommendations from the client, and the last but possibly the sneakiest of them all, a council's recommendation to take the Chunin exams. This little trick allowed said participant and his team a bypass in the next Chunin exams, meaning more chakra available and a better performance. Uchiha Sasuke and Uzumaki Naruto, please enter the field. Naruto jumped into the arena and waited. After 2 minutes it appeared that the last Uchiha wasn't going to show up. Uzumaki Naruto Genma began to say when a shinobi in an immaculate green flak vest appeared in the stadium. This shinobi was most evidently on the civilian council peril, judging by the state of the vest. Most shinobi vests were either frayed or torn slightly. Yes, asked Genma coldly. The council wanted Uchiha Sasuke to still fight. He explained. That lost get clearance from Hokage-sama. The Jonin spat on the floor near Genma's feet and vanished in a shunshin. Hokage Dono, why not move the Uchiha's fight to last as an exhibition, as most of the crowds have come to see him fight, myself especially. Suggested the Kazekage. The Hokage grunted. Very well, he will have his fight, no promotion, as a Chunin one is expected to arrive on time. If it had been a proper war, Uzumaki Naruto could have been killed or taken hostage. The Sandaime noticed a subtle aura of glee whenever the Uchiha was mentioned around Kazekage. Have you now, Orochimaru? Thought the Sandaime gleefully. The crowd cheered at the fact the last Uchiha would fight last. Kankuro quickly threw his match to Shino. Whilst Shikamaru and Tamari had enraptured the crowd with what appeared to be a rather boring fight, escalated quickly into a game of cat and mouse. The Shinobi Council watched on in interest. They all quickly came to the conclusion that Shikamaru deserved the rank of Chunin. Shadow Possession Jutsu success, I give up. Had another 20 moves planned out, but I'm all out of chakra. Said Shikamaru from his place on the edge of the shadows, squatting down with his head bowed. Lazy bastard. Shouted Sakura. Shika, typical. Murmured Kiba and Hinata, though the latter whispered it. Naruto snorted at Shikamaru. Typical Nara attitude, several shinobi including the council said in unison. Definitely Chunin. Commented the Kages. As Uchiha Sasuke hasn't arrived, he has 2 minutes before being disqualified. Announced Genma. Naruto jumped into the stadium as Lee and Guy arrived in the stands, and Tenten quickly filling Lee in on who won and lost. As Naruto hit the ground, a twin Shunshin appeared, and with his hand on Sasuke's shoulder and perverted book in the other stood Hada Kakashi. We're not late, are we? Saw a few black cats and Sasuke had to get changed. Drawled the scarecrow Jonin to a mass sweat drop. Uchiha Sasuke vs Uzumaki Naruto Hajime. Declared Genma before grabbing Kakashi and shunshining them both to safety. Scared dope. Sharingan eyes flickered into existence. You wish. Genma loved his reflexes, which he had honed to the point he would appear to flash to another location. Those reflexes had just saved him again, as the moment he called for the match to begin, the Uzumaki and Uchiha hurled themselves towards and away from the other, and unleashing an arsenal of kunai and shuriken which crashed with such force, it sounded like a battle between samurai. Sasuke's hands blurred through 2 chains of hand seals before exhaling 2 fireballs of larger than normal proportions. Naruto snorted and effortlessly slid under them. He needed to neutralize Sasuke as fast and effectively as possible, and preferably without sign jutsu. The jutsu? Chains. He called and 2 lengths of chakra chains emerged out of his shoulders, coiled snake-like around his arms and dropped to the floor. Naruto smirked as he flicked them up, and as Sasuke rushed in for a mythical phoenix flower jutsu, Naruto struck. The first chain went for the Uchiha's stomach, he effortlessly switched with a log. He swore under his breath as the second chain almost took his head off. Sasuke smirked, "All you have, dope." He mocked as he charged into close combat. Progenitus told me the Uchiha were fast and agile over flat ground, disrupt the ground 2 sense technique, I'm going to need his help for this. Naruto, instead of jumping backwards, flicked his right hand out and whirling sound was heard. Up in the crowds, the Jonin council and a few of the Chunin gasped. It can't be. Rasengan. They thought as one whilst underneath a transparent escape jutsu. Jiraiya grinned cockily. That's his kid. I feel ashamed not being able to teach him much, but at least I got to teach him the first stages of the Rasengan. By now the swirling mass of chakra and solidified into a ball of chakra not much bigger than a soccer ball. Rasengan. Screamed Naruto and he slammed the construct into the floor as Sasuke landed. Sasuke stumbled and Naruto capitalized. In a second Naruto had Sasuke by the shoulders and driven his knee into the Uchiha's stomach. Sasuke grunted as the full force of the knee strike connected, then his world spun as Naruto hit him square in the forehead with the palm of his left hand. The crowd stared as the Uchiha was staggered. Go. Sasuke-kun. Shouted Sakura, causing Ino and Choji to look at her with wide eyes. Sakura, shouldn't you be cheering on both of them? I mean, they're both your teammates. Chastised Ino only to receive a glower in return. Sasuke-kun is so much better than Naruto team, Ino, as a result he is the only one worth cheering, she replied before screaming another cheer for Sasuke. Sasuke was amazed, he couldn't copy Naruto's attacks. Well, he was tracing them, but he wasn't able to block them with his interceptor style. Lightning style. Bolt. Sasuke shoved his hand out like a spear, and the bolt of lightning discharged off it rapidly and sent it careening towards Naruto. Sod it, I have to use them. Hyoten. Black spiral dragon. A black dragon made of ice erupted from Naruto's mouth. Thankfully the seals were made too quickly to be copied, but Sasuke had seen enough of them to evade the technique. Hatsu. Shouted Naruto and the dragon exploded, launching fragments across the field. 7 of which caught Sasuke cleanly in the stomach. Sasuke snarled and dropped the weights on his arm with a slice of a kunai and flipped away. Up in the stadium, Kakashi's eye widened as he saw Sasuke begin scrolling through hand seals. Sasuke, you're not. He growled out loud. Kakashi-san, what is Sasuke doing? A soft female voice, Kakashi, who had been joined by Guy and Genma, turned around to find Haku joining them, her Chunin vest 3/4 done up. I taught him under the pretense of fighting the sand kid the Chidori that attack I used in our second meeting. Explained Kakashi and Haku's eyes widened. And that boy is using it on Naruto. Growled Haku as Koroi began to growl at the stupidity of humans. Sasuke-kun is so cool mustering all that power. Exclaimed Sakura, but Ino, Choji and Kiba, whose parents and relatives had worked with Kakashi, gulped. This isn't exactly good. Sakura, Sasuke could actually kill Naruto with that jutsu. Exclaimed Ino, emphasizing the word kill, but Sakura didn't care because her true love was trouncing the baka into the earth. Progenitus, any ideas? Asked Naruto as he began scrolling through an incredibly complicated jutsu. The reason it was so complex was because he needed to focus his chakra into the water tanks deep below the stadium. Hit the kid with a water dragon jutsu and watch him fry himself. Came the slightly arrogant response and Naruto nodded. The first set of hand signs were draconic signs allowing their summoners to manipulate the atoms and molecules around them into the chakra of their choice. In this case, Naruto was rapidly increasing the moisture in the air and forcing the pre-existing water in the tanks below the stadium upwards. Naruto knew couldn't do it alone, so Progenitus, and after many a cajoling, the Kyuubi began forcing their chakra and manipulating said chakra around the blonde's body. Up in the cage booth, the 2Kage's eyes widened. This child is something else. Hokage don't know, though I fail to see how this is going to save him from that lightning attack from Sasuke-san. The Hokage smirked. Water conducts electricity, though I will be having words with Kakashi for teaching such a dangerous jutsu to his students. The same words will be given to Jiraiya when I next see him. By now the chakra had been built up to almost visible standards when Sasuke began to charge, the wall disintegrating as he began to run, and the chirping of 1,000 birds began. Dragon Stlye. Water dragon bullet. Screamed Naruto as Sasuke hit the floor. The water rushed up from the tanks into the arena as the moisture in the air dispersed into a short rainfall, and soon enough Naruto was standing on a 2-foot deep volume of water. Suddenly the water began to churn and bubble, and a water dragon the exact same as Kakashi's sped towards Sasuke. Sasuke's eyes had 2 Tomo Sharingan, meaning he could see the flow of chakra, and if he could he would have gasped. How could the dope have so much chakra? His temporary loss of focus was all Naruto needed as the water dragons plowed into the Uchiha. Sasuke grimaced as his technique dissipated under the torrent of water with minor burns. Up in the stadium several Jonin and Chunin were observing with interest and mentally marking points to see if the combatants were deserving of the Chunin rank. That Naruto kid, he's using good use of strategy and decent jutsu. The way he started the fight with pure taijutsu and trying to resist using his jutsu. Sasuke using that jutsu on a comrade, he doesn't deserve the rank. Came the unison report of the assembled shinobi. Then Orochimaru struck, forming a modified snake seal. A set of feathers descended upon the stadium. The moment the feathers started to fall, 36 Suna shinobi slammed their hands down in unison on 3 summoning circles. Then in 3 massive clouds of smoke 3 snakes appeared, then almost as programmed they surged towards the village walls. Back in the arena several Odo ninja jumped out of their disguises as civilians and fell upon the assembled Chunin. Naruto smirked and summoned a well of chakra and visibly forced it out of his body, freeing him from the genjutsu as Sasuke and Sakura did the same. "Ara, Kankuro, Tamari, get out of here, fulfill your part of the plan, I'll deal with these genin," ordered Baki as he jumped into the arena to find Naruto already rushing after Sasuke, who was hurtling after the Sand siblings. Uzumaki Naruto, the Jonin began only to be cut off by Naruto. "Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto actually, but take your pick," replied Naruto calmly. The only responses were a stiffening off the Sand Jonin's back and a senbon loosening in the other's lips. "Since the Chunin exams are now over and your foolish opponent has charged off, you are to provide assistance. I can take this one," ordered the Jonin. "Hi, Shiranui Genma. Hi Genma Taicho." Naruto rushed forward, quickly multiplying himself into a small army, and he quickly left the arena. Naruto entered the gallery, pulled out and launched 3 kunai and 4 shuriken into 3 Odo ninja creeping up on Haku. 2 of the kunai penetrated the base of the skull of 2 of the ninja, and 2 shuriken finished off their spines. The remaining projectiles littered the other nin's arm and shoulder. As he spun around, Naruto was in his face Uzumaki Hijutsu. "Chains. Get over here." He finished throwing 2 chains sliding through the man's lower stomach before being violently wrenched over. Naruto grimaced as he formed an X with his arms and violently pulled apart, only for it to happen on the unfortunate ninja in front of him, caking himself and Haku on blood. "Sorry Haim, I have to save the Yuke." With that he rushed out of the gaping hole in the back of the gallery, caused by a Chidori and a leaf whirlwind, connecting with the same poor bastard. Naruto, track and reinforce Uchiha Sasuke, and the Genin team sent after him. Ordered Kakashi, not turning around from the Chunin whose throat he had just opened. All across the village skirmishes and brawls were breaking out along with vicious defenses. 7 Sand Chunin were claimed in an abandoned building covered in explosive notes. Meanwhile nearby Akimichi Choza placed his hands in a customized bird seal and expanded to a titanic size and pulling out his enlarged bow staff, proceeded to swipe the attacking shinobi off the rooftops and blowing them down the streets by rotating his staff like a propeller. Up on the rooftops 2 Suna Jonin stealthily crept upon Konoha's former chief interrogator Yamanka Inoichi, who spun around forming a unique hand sign mind destruction jutsu. One of the Jonin stopped cold as ice, turned, and before his partner could stop him launched himself at him. "Come on fellas, you mean you've never heard of the Leaf Village's Shadow Paralysis Jutsu? You'll love this next one, the Leaf Shadow Neck Binding Jutsu." With that the shadows crept up the Sound Ninja's body to their necks and slowly crushed the life out of them. The elder Ino Shikacho trio appeared on the rooftops looking for any potential attackers. Hurtling across the rooftops in the traditional all-fours jutsu of the Inyazuka clan, Hana and Tsume charged a seemingly impenetrable wall of fan-wielding Sunanin. "Itsuga." The mother and daughter screamed as the 2 humans and 4 ninkin began spinning like drills and launched themselves at the wall. Meanwhile, boxed in by a 4-flamed pillar prison, Sarutobi Hiruzen and Orochimaru, along with a resurrected Sho and Nidame Hokages clashed. The roof was barely holding under the strain of the Kai, Jutsu and Chakra the 2 men and corpses were emitting. Transfixed, the 3 prowling Anbu stopped and watched as their Hokage dodged, ducked, dipped and dived with a sense of control, grace and style that certainly didn't add up to his age. Sarutobi panted heavily as he leant on his staff. "Emna the Monkey King. I need to use the Shiki Fuin. Only way to end this," he thought while summoning the last of his chakra. The seals began to form. Out in the forest just to the north of the eastern wall of Konoha, Naruto pulsed his chakra and forced himself free from an impromptu sand coffin. In front of him the one-tailed Tanuki formed. The only thing needed was for Gaara to fall asleep. Tanuki art. Play possum no jutsu. Guchius no jutsu. Fuin jutsu. Shiki Fuin. 3 jutsu were intoned, the chakra output so immense it quelled the fighting in Konoha as they waited for the outcome. The Sand siblings had departed, leaving Naruto face down in the dirt with blood trickling down his face. This would be the last time he did something this utterly stupid. Flashback, Guchius no jutsu. In a plume of smoke Naruto reappeared on the head of a gargantuan dragon, who summons Mjolnir of the storm cast. He roared his 3 heads growling as one. Dynamic is Uzumaki Naruto, bearer of the Kyuubi no Yoko and spirit bonded of Progenitus the World Dragon, declared Naruto. That statement had cemented the Storm Lord's allegiance, and together they faced the sand-bodied Tanuki. It was in essence one way. As fast as Shukaku could spit his wind style. Wind bullets, Mjolnir responded with his own, lightning bolts and acid water projectiles. Naruto was beginning to feel the drain on his chakra as he summoned the dragon who was using his chakra along with the dragon's own to batter the Ichibi into submission. Mjolnir-sama, get me close, hold that bastard down, and let me wake his host up. If Progenitus and Kyuubi-samas told me correctly, the only way to beat this team without killing the host is to wake up the physical vessel. Shouted Naruto as the Storm King jumped over another barrage of wind bullets. I hope you know what you're doing. He growled as he charged the Tanuki, and with a swipe of his tail, it caught the Tanuki in the gut. God damn son of bitch, that fucking hurt. Shukaku growled. Time to say goodbye to the outside Sandy. Uzumaki art. Headbutt. Shouted Naruto, forming his signature shadow clones. Using them as a set of stepping stones, he bridged the gap between the battling giants and with a solid crack broke the jutsu. However, with the crack of bone meeting cartilage there was a faint sound of a skull cracking. Then flashback, Naruto groaned and rolled over when he noticed it. Lying against a tree unsinged and undamaged by the conflict was a massive scroll. It was a scroll much similar to the scroll the Iro Sanin carried across his back. Anyone here? It was a deep booming voice and it reverberated around the clearing. Here. Uzumaki Naruto. Naruto shouted, or rather weakly infusing his voice with the dregs of his chakra, he had managed to bounce his reply around the clearing. The caller landed in front of him. It was a bared man with thick black and messy hair, with a well-kept and trimmed beard. He remembered the man from the Genin preliminaries Team 10 Sensei Asuma. Asuma Sensei, how is everyone? Grunted Naruto as the Jonin pulled him up. Konoha's fine, as far as I know the old man is alive and well. Replied the Jonin. Sensei, by the tree just across from me is a scroll, I need it. Stated Naruto. Asuma saw the scroll, picked it up and was soon bounding through the forest. Where are your teammates, Gaki? Asked Asuma curiously. Don't know, and to be honest Sasuke team and Sakura can't be classified as my teammates. Sakura hits me for no reason, even when I'm doing something right under the pretense of outshining the Uchiha. Plus the Uchiha is only after my jutsu, and the only reason he hasn't taken them is because they are all beyond his chakra reserves and he can't track my seal pace. The other genin from Kurenai, yours, mine and that guy's sensei, I trust the 9 more than mine. I'm passing out now. With that Naruto slumped as his chakra left him. This kid is something. I caught up with Shikamaru, didn't see the Aburum, Haruno or the Uchiha at all. I'm not worried about the Aburum, they always turn up sooner or later, but the other two not so much. I can find them if they don't turn up within the next few hours, but first get this Gaki sorted out. Thought Asuma as he flicked a cigarette into his mouth and lit it. Meanwhile back in Konoha, as Asuma predicted, Shino was in a healing hijutsu of the Aburum clan. Shino had defeated Subaku Kankuro without any major problems, save for the unknown slow-acting poison coursing through the boy's veins. Sakura and Sasuke had also made it back, albeit Sasuke did carrying Sakura bridal style into the village. The moment he arrived in the village, Sasuke had immediately started to brag about how he had defeated Gaara and his 3 siblings and rescued Sakura. As this was going on, Kakashi looked on and paled at the sheer arrogance the Uchiha was giving off. He doesn't even look like he fought seriously at all. Where's Naruto? I gave him orders to back up Sasuke and the people I sent after him. He was shortly joined by Kurenai, who had just been informed by an Aburum clan member that Shino was going to pull through and that thanks to his poisoning, they had acquired new breed of insects. Kakashi, is it true that the Uchiha beat that Gaara child? She asked curiously. The scarecrow Jonin turned to her and frowned. No, I don't believe so. Look at him and sense his reserves. Now I need to find Kakashi didn't get to finish as Asuma landed next to them at the gates, a scroll under one arm and a Naruto. Exhaled Kakashi as he pulled the boy off his fellow Jonin. Gaki, next to unconsciousness when I found him. Fractured skull, several other fractured limbs, chakra exhaustion, blood caking his body, as well as sand, said Asuma. Oh, and this scroll appeared. Brat seemed to really need it. Thank you Asuma, I have some bad news. Sandame-sama is dead. Said Kakashi, now placing the boy on his back whilst Kurenai attaché the scroll to Naruto's lower back. Dusen's dead. Damn it, so many things I wanted to tell him and so many things I'll never get to say. Growled Asuma, spitting his cigarette out and stomping on it. Kakashi sensei. Where am I? The 3 Jonin turned around, or rather one placed his drained genin on the floor. Welcome back to the land of the living, Naruto-kun. Said Kakashi, eye smiling. Feels like my guardian spirit and furry tenant are using my body as a trampoline. Grunted Naruto as he sat heavily on the ground feeling the scroll. What's this? No bloody way, gasped Naruto as he deciphered the word dragon off the scroll. My family's true summoning contract. Kakashi grinned and pulled him to his feet. Naruto, the Sandame died just now. For the record, who fought Gaara out in the forest? Questioned Kakashi urgently. I fought Gaara, he went raccoon-like, then I remember summoning a dragon, and then everything gets hazy before I felt something crack, and the next thing I know is I'm on the floor caked in blood and sand. Kakashi nodded. Naruto definitely looked like he had been trampled through the dirt, and he noticed the contract. I take it that's the contract Jiraiya had you sign. Deciding to conceal his heritage of being a dragon summoner until he needed to. Naruto nodded. Permission to go have a shower and a nap. Then forming a half-ram sign vanished in a swirl of smoke. Definitely got style. The Jonin thought. Naruto was roused from his deep nap by a sharp rapping on his door, grabbing a kunai, and dressed in a t-shirt, dragon boxers and frog nightcap, opened the front door to find Haku-chan. Haku slid into the apartment. Nice boxers anyway, here to tell you that the council requests to see you. She replied, and as she turned to leave Naruto caught her hand and pulled her into his apartment. Sorry about the mess Haku-chan, but I have something to show you. With that Naruto led Haku into the apartment, and there on the coffee table lay a contract with the kanji for dragon on the side. It's appeared when Naruto-kun? Asked Haku in a whisper. Few hours ago, not exactly sure as I was on the verge of passing out when I noticed it. Replied Naruto before unrolling the contract to find that contract had been organized to a spiraling swirl of the lesser castes on the outer, before the more powerful castes on the inner. Naruto heard more footsteps entering his apartment and pulled out 2 kunai he had hidden in his couch as Haku created from her wrists 2 ice kunai. Who is it? An Anbu wearing a raven mask entered the living room. Uzumaki. Naruto, Yuki. Haku, the council wishes to see you and get an account for your absence. Naruto-san. With that the Anbu vanished in a plume of smoke. Akatana Hero, the raven Anbu, didn't mind Naruto. Sure, the kid could be annoying with his pranks, such as the super glue in the masks, itching powder in the trousers. But those pranks he believed helped improve the most important skill a shinobi needed: stealth. What Raven hated the most about his job as an Anbu operative was being the messenger boy or man for the bloody council. He materialized in front of the rapidly assembling council. Uzumaki, Naruto, and Yuki Haku are on their way. Why didn't you bring them as per your orders? Snapped Utane Kaheru. Because Utane-sama, Uzumaki. Naruto was indecently dressed at that particular moment and Yuki Haku was in the bathroom at the time. Replied Raven. Just then the doors opened to the council hall and Naruto and Haku entered. Naruto looking incredibly grouchy and sleep-deprived, clutching the scroll close to him whilst Haku remained impassive. We're here, grouchy old manipulative twats. Naruto flinched only to be hit around the ear by Haku. Uzumaki, where were you during this invasion of Suna and Odo? Ordered Kaheru, only for Naruto to shut his mouth and stare the elder down. Answer the honorable elder, demon spawn. Screamed a civilian counselor, who then gurgled and dropped dead as a shadow retracted from his neck and back into the shadows. Sandaime-sama's law is still in effect. Drawled the Do Anbu. Genin. Uzumaki, you will answer the question or be court-martialed. Growled Danzo, trying to apply his unique Jinjutsu on the Jinchuriki. Kid, we're trying to be mind-controlled even though you think we aren't. Keep your mouth shut and wait until the Jonin commander speaks up and answer his questions. Ordered Progenitus as he and the fox projected their chakra around Naruto's body, breaking the Jinjutsu. Are you retarded? Snapped Midokado Himura when Shikaku stood up. Genin. Uzumaki, my name is Nara Shikaku, and I am the Jonin commander of the village. I am inquiring about your whereabouts during this most recent invasion. Drawled the commander, and immediately Naruto responded. I was in the Chunin arena before being ordered by Takubetsu Jonin Shiranui Genma of the Hokage Guard platoon to reinforce Sasuke team. That's Uchiha-sama to you, scum. Screeched Haruno Mibuyuki, and Naruto winced. Haku slapped Naruto across the head. Naruto-kun, behave, put aside your dislike of Sasuke-san and finish the report. Then she turned to the civilian counselor. You shut up about Sasuke-san being superior and keep your mouth closed from shinobi abuseness. Haku laced the tone of her voice with a good dose of kai, causing the civilian council to nod as one. Sorry, Genin's Uchiha Sasuke, Haruno Sakura and Nara Shikamaru. Anyway, on my to reinforce Ed Genin, I found Aburam Shino in need of medical assistance, but another member of the Aburam informed me to carry on my original mission and that he had the situation under control. I proceeded to the sound of fighting nearby, believing it to be the team, but it turned out to be the Ichibi no Shikaku fighting. To be released from his container, everyone was transfixed as Naruto carried on his statement. He's telling the truth so far. Informed Ibiki from his position next to the Uzumaki. During the on-the-spot post, disaster reports, the T&I department stood invisible to the subject and made sure to keep track of body language, temperature, sweat glands and brain activity to ensure no one tried to spin the report in their favor. I couldn't find the team anywhere, but unfortunately I was noticed by the Shukaku and was forced to battle him. With the use of sheer multitude of clones and a very lucky timely intervention from a dragon summon who I managed to summon without the use of a contract, and through my spirit guardian, I managed to defeat him. I sustained skull fractures, broken ribs and a broken arm along with blood loss, all of which are healed due to my tenant, shall we say. With that, Naruto concluded his report. We accept your report and inform you that you have 2 days off before the funeral of our beloved Sandaime-sama," informed Shikaku. Naruto bowed before heading out of the council chambers. "Just a moment, Uzumaki," a weedy voice called out. Naruto turned again. "Who is it?" he called bluntly. The civilian council stiffened at the impertinent manner Naruto was addressing one of the elders. "I'm Elder Shimura Danzo. I'm curious about this dragon contract." "Well, I'm not curious, but I'm demanding that you hand over the contract to the young Uchiha Sasuke." Naruto's eyes turned shining gold with a hint of bloodlust coming from the Kyuubi seeping out. "Okay, if you order the clans to hand over several of their most prized techniques," he responded coldly. The Shinobi Council reacted in several ways. The Kurama and Hyuga clan heads responded sharply and harshly, with cries of preposterous, whilst the other clans smirked as they recognized the ploy the dragon summoner had used. "I'd never ask our noble clans to do such a thing," wheezed Danzo. This brat was grating on him. Oh, how he wished he could use Uchiha Shisui's implanted eye, but at this moment the genes of the Shodaime Hokage were just settling in. "You will do what Elder Danzo commands, brat," ordered Homura, though secretly deep down and he wouldn't reveal it under protest. He believed that the young Uchiha was too unstable and ill-suited for the powers that the Kyuubi holder had at its disposal. "I'll surrender it if the Uchiha can summon a whelp and it bows to him and accepts him," replied Naruto. Game set. Game matched. The Dragon King and Fox thought. Sasuke entered the council chamber to a standing ovation on the defeat of the Ichibi no Shukaku. "Uchiha Sasuke, the civilian council with the backing of the Shinobi Council, have managed to get you the dragon contract." Naruto smirked evilly, swung the contract roughly into the Uchiha's body, causing him to stumble. "Write your name in either the lightning or fire dragon castes based on your affinities," Naruto advised. Sasuke shrugged him off, opened the scroll and signed his name to the most powerful dragon caste, the caste of the 5 elemental release. "I, Inu, Tori, Seru, Hitsuji Kuchius no Jutsu." There was a puff of smoke and out of the smoke, nothing appeared. "Brat. What did you do to Sasuke-sama?" screamed one of the civilian council. Naruto smiled draconically when he saw the out-cold Uchiha. "Idiot, I told him to sign his natural affinities." With that he picked up his scroll, winked at Haku, and the pair vanished in shimmer of ice. Naruto and Haku arrived back at his apartment to find Jiraiya sitting his couch. "Kids, I need to borrow Naruto, I'm taking him to find the Godame," said Jiraiya. "Not interested, to be honest, I'd rather work on training my other elements and summonings," replied Naruto. "What if I told you I had a personnel jutsu for you? A variant that I made based off your father's?" Jiraiya countered the grin. "Naruto-kun, go save the leaf." Soon enough, within 10 minutes Jiraiya and Naruto departed the village. Naruto attacking very few of his possessions, mainly his scroll and a few changes of clothes. "Where are we going?" asked Naruto curiously. "We're going to find the new Hokage, she should be in Tanzaku town. Don't worry, on the way you'll learn a few jutsu," said Jiraiya. "What?" exclaimed Naruto, getting a belly laugh from the toad sage. "Thought you were ready to be Hokage." "Not yet, kid, 4 years or so, you'll make a good Rokudame or Nanadame Hokage," explained Jiraiya, causing Naruto to face vault. At night the pair set up for the night. Jiraiya handed Naruto 2 water balloons. "Rotate the water with your chakra until they pop, like so." With that the water balloons detonated in a pattern of multicolored shapes. Naruto nodded and grabbed the water balloons and began to spin them. Jiraiya stopped Naruto after half an hour and forced him to sleep. Naruto that night had possibly one of the best night's sleep ever. The next morning the duo were back on the road again. Naruto swore violently as he couldn't detonate the balloon. "Kid, how many ways are you spinning your chakra on both balloons?" "What way does your chakra spin?" asked Jiraiya. "I don't know. I wasn't exactly allowed in the majority of my lessons," replied Naruto somewhat sullenly. Jiraiya nodded, dodged back to his young companion, and slammed his hand down on the boy's head. "Spinning in 5 directions, you need to spin it in 1. And spin your chakra to the left," Jiraiya instructed. Naruto did as instructed and soon enough the balloons popped, turning Naruto's hands wet. Jiraiya handed him another 2 balloons and Naruto repeated the process. The stack of water balloons dwindled down to nothing. "Before I teach you the second step of this technique, form the first stage now," he ordered. Naruto concentrated on the feeling of the first stage and the spinning shell of the technique bloomed into existence in both hands. Jiraiya nodded in satisfaction. "Could be faster, but that'll come with time. Rubber balls this time, full power to rapid," he instructed. Naruto channeled his power into it and nothing. By now the duo had almost reached Tanzaku town. "Isn't this place a gambling city?" Correct. Gaki, by teammate Tsunade, is known as the legendary sucker. She's going to be the Godame Hokage, however she has debts as large as her assists and will probably take flight if she ever catches wind that we're coming for her," explained Jiraiya. Meanwhile in a little bar in Tanzaku, a large-breasted blonde-haired woman placed a sake bottle down. Her companion, a small dark-haired woman, clutched a pig wearing a set pearls. Lady Tsunade, please, I think you have had enough to drink. Shizune, don't tell me what to do. Growled Tsunade as she drained yet another bottle of sake. Then the door opened as Jiraiya and Naruto both entered. Hero Jiraiya, is that them? 4 in from door, 5 across. Naruto asked curiously. Ever since Naruto discovered Jiraiya wrote the Icha Icha books, he started calling the man Hero Sanin, but Jiraiya had quickly proven himself to be a somewhat decent teacher, hence Hero Jiraiya. Jiraiya couldn't complain about the second name, as it was better than the first. He quickly agreed if he decided to teach Naruto more and less peeping Naruto would consider the suffix sensei. Yup, that's them. Let's pray we're lucky. The Toad Sage said as the pair made their way over. Hey, Tsunade Haim. Called Jiraiya as they walked over. Tsunade and Shizune looked up and paled as they saw the infamous Toad Sage walk over with another person. Jiraiya, I had a feeling you'd turn up. Meeting up with both teammates in one day can't be a coincidence. Growled Tsunade softly. What is it you two? The council wants you instated as the Godame, Tsunade-sama. Stated the blonde, he was blunt and polite, both things Tsunade appreciated. Thanks but no thanks, Uratobi-sensei is still alive, isn't he? She asked, though deep down when she had met with Orochimaru, he had a gleam in his eyes that she remembered that he got in the second Shinobi War whenever he killed someone. Sarutobi-sensei is dead. Orochimaru ran him through with Kusanagi but lost his arms in the process. Said Jiraiya sadly. Who's the runt? Asked Tsunade bluntly, clearly indicating Naruto, who bristled under the insult but after months of training with Progenitus and the Kyuubi on insults and not listening to them paid off. Uzumaki Naruto, my apprentice you could say. Said Jiraiya, giving Naruto a pleading look as in please back me up. Yeah, Jiraiya-sensei is my teacher. Temporarily at least, he's been helping me get control of some learning difficulties and reinforcing the basics on me. Said if I could get them to a suitable level in my jutsu the same, he'd build upon that. Commented Naruto, catching the younger girl's interest. I'm Kato Shizune, Tsunade-sama's apprentice. What do you mean the basics and difficulties? Asked Shizune curiously. Dyslexic, ADHD, chakra control, reading and writing kinda need to improve them if I'm going to become Hokage. Oh, and chakra control some more complex ones. Stated Naruto, making Shizune smile and understand. At least he's not turning you into a pervert. She said, giggling, making Naruto grin. Haku-chan would give me frostbite of the decade if he even dared. I'm not going back, Jiraiya. Everyone who has taken that position is a fool and has died. Screamed Tsunade at Jiraiya, who recoiled just outside of his former teammate's arm length. Boy, Grandma, I understand the concerns, but I'm not going to sit here and listen to you slag off the role of Hokage. Snarled Naruto. Fuck, kid, we're in it now. Both the blonde's tenants commented together before glowering at each other. The dragon and fox had come to mutual agreement to despise each other, but to help their tenant when he needs it. Alright brat, outside right now, you need to learn to respect your elders. Growled Tsunade, the sake flooding her system, making her intolerant to the disrespect of the blonde punk. The group made their way outside. Punk, I quite like you. I'll make this interesting. If you can land a blow on me, I'll become the Godame and I'll chuck this necklace in. If not, well, you can hand over your wallet. Naruto nodded reluctantly. You'll have to get my wallet of the pervert nicked it, fucking bastardo. Jiraiya gulped. Lady Tsunade, you can't risk the necklace. You said that was the most important thing you ever had and would never part with it due to its curse. Exclaimed Shizune. Naruto set himself in the stance of the wind dragon. I won't need a hand to fight to you. I'll destroy you with a finger. Stated Tsunade, holding up one finger. Naruto desperately tried to control his temper, but it snapped. He charged forwards, intent on a full frontal assault. Tsunade grinned and jabbed said finger to the ground. The ground ruptured like an earthquake hit it, but Naruto avoided it. His hand began to spin an orb of chakra Rasengan. Tsunade dodged the attack and went to poke the genin, but broke a wooden log instead. Dual Rasengan. Naruto shouted, but he left himself wide open. The attack faltered, the spheres flickered and shimmered and dissolved into nothingness. Tsunade dodged them and with one flick of her finger, sent the boy flying down the street into a wall to end up compacted inside a garbage skip outside of a restaurant. Jiraiya, you imbecile, teaching him your variation of that technique. What were you thinking? Growled Tsunade at her former teammate. He's his kid. Haim, anyway, let's get a drink for old time's sake and you can tell me what Orochimaru promised you. Be warned, if you think that Orochimaru will fulfill his end of the bargain, I will kill you. Warned Jiraiya, the Kai lacing his voice, showing Tsunade why he was the strongest in terms of raw power out of the Sanin. But that the slug and toad summoners headed off to the bar. Shizune quickly joined them as she had put Naruto on a bed. Shizune, the brat has a week to learn the dual Rasengan. Shizune nodded, I'll tell him when he wakes up. With that she left the two Sanin, leaving them to reminisce about old times. I have week to decide, Jiraiya. 1 week to decide, Jiraiya. What do I do? Asked Tsunade, more to herself than anybody else. Unbeknownst to Jiraiya, Tsunade had slipped a paralysis drug into the man's drink. She had made up her mind, ever since Orochimaru said he could bring her former lover and brother back, she knew Orochimaru had to die. Meanwhile Naruto jerked awake. What happened to me? He slurred only to find Shizune sitting next to his bed. Naruto-kun, you're awake. I need to have a quick word with you. Shizune said. What about? He asked curiously, tying his headband on bandana style for once. Tsunade-sama, change the deal. If you can learn the dual Rasengan in a week, she'll give you her necklace and become Hokage. Naruto nodded. I accept. You can't. Everyone she's given the necklace has died because they want the same gold Hokage, plus the necklace could buy you 3 mountains and several gold mines. Pleaded Shizune. I can't go back on my word. That's my Nindo and ninja way. Explained Naruto before grabbing his scroll and headed out. The next morning, Naruto found Shizune Koad on the floor in his apartment. Hey Shizune, what happened? We didn't do anything. Haku-chan'll kill me if it did. He said frantically. Shizune jumped to her feet, running a diagnostic over herself. Nope, nothing. Stomach hemorrhaging due to Lady Tsunade. She's gone to see Orochimaru. We need to stop her. There was a knock on the door. Naruto opened it, swirling a Rasengan, only to find Jiraiya, looking more gaunt and haggard than usual. Tsunade Haim drugged me. Where is she? He asked as Naruto pulled the man bodily into the hotel room. She's gone to meet Orochimaru. Jiraiya-sama, I can't do a thing about the drug. The only thing you can do is wait for it to wear off. For now your chakra control is shot. Jiraiya nodded. Only Tsunade could have done this. Where did she go? He asked as he slouched against the wall, utilizing toad oil to speed up his detoxification. We find Tsunade, beat the shit out of Orochimaru and go home. Declared Naruto. But that Shizune and Naruto dragged a 25% recovered Jiraiya out of the apartment, following Taunton to find the large blonde Sanin. However, on a building opposite them, Kabuto lay flat on the ground, observing them through the ground. Since his affinities were water and earth, he was able to float his chakra over the rooftops and detected that the 3 shinobi were heading towards his master. How are we going to find the old bat? Asked Naruto, slightly annoyed at the frantic Shizune and useless Sanin. Look for utter destruction of buildings or historical sites. Slurred Jiraiya slightly. Suddenly an explosion shook the area and the castle slowly began to crumble. Definitely Tsunade. Commented Jiraiya, and the group ran for the remains of the castle. At the castle, Tsunade jumped backwards as Kabuto, who quickly shunshed to Orochimaru's side. Orochimaru-sama, I saw the Kyuubi brat, Tsunade-sama's apprentice, and Jiraiya-sama making their way here. Then he turned to the large-breasted woman. Tsunade-sama, we must pressure you for an answer. Will you heal Orochimaru-sama's arms for your lover and brother? Pressurized Kabuto almost eagerly. Tsunade sighed and walked towards Orochimaru as her hands flickered blue as she began to heal the snake Sanin's arms. In a blur, Kabuto pulled Orochimaru out the way. Kabuto. Why did you do that? Hissed Orochimaru apoplectically. My lord, Tsunade was going to use an assassination jutsu, which is very similar to a healing jutsu, which you thought was going to be used. The only reason I know is because I've studied medical jutsu as far as I could. Replied Kabuto calmly, not even put off by the snake Sanin's anger. It appears you've chosen your side. Hissed Orochimaru. Suddenly Tsunade launched herself forward, throwing a chakra-loaded right hand at Orochimaru, who managed to substitute with a boulder that unfortunately disintegrated upon impact. Evil temper, greater strength, yep, definitely single. If I get so much as scratched by that attack, I'm dead. Kabuto and Orochimaru thought as they dodged another pair of chakra-enhanced punches. That was when several voices were heard. Guchius no Jutsu. Naruto and Jiraiya called out. In a mountain of smoke, a dragon and a small toad materialized. Gamakichi, not now. Where's your father? Shouted Jiraiya, causing Gamakichi to pout indignantly. You, summoned Naruto-sama? Asked a frost blue dragon that must have been the head of the Hyoten caste. We have a snake infestation, Kori-san. Naruto indicated to Orochimaru, who in the midst of Jiraiya failing to summon the boss of the Toad clan and Kitsaya emerging, had managed to summon Mana. Naruto-san, if you use the summoning technique again and yell Gamabunta, you should hypothetically summon the Toad boss to assist Jiraiya. Said Kori as she stared down the snake boss. Naruto slammed his hand down and, true to Kori's statement, Gamabunta materialized on the field. Who summoned me? Rumbled Gamabunta. Gamabunta-san, I'm Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto, I wield the dragon contract. I summoned you through sheer force of will and chakra. Naruto explained as Jiraiya jumped onto the Toad boss. Kitsaya-chan, Manda, well, it seems the gang's back together again. The Toad stated, puffing on his pipe. Kitsaya giggled nervously with Tsunade perched upon her head. Jiraiya sat on Gamabunta's whilst Orochimaru, Naruto and Kabuto perched on their respective summons. Naruto, protect Shizune. Jiraiya ordered as the Toad Sanin saw Orochimaru's apprentice launch himself at Shizune, who was busy holding onto Taunton and Gamakichi. I'll hit Tsunade-sama where it hurts the most. The niece of her lover. Crowed Kabuto as his hands crackled with the chakra scalpels. No you don't. Dragon style. Dragon rush. A voice shouted and Kabuto was slammed violently off course by Naruto, who had slammed his arm into the boy's sternum just off the left-hand side. Kabuto hit the ground hard, bounced twice but landed on his feet, scalpels gouging into the earth. I'm not the weak genin in the exams, Naruto. I'm as strong if not stronger than Kakashi. As Kabuto and Naruto clashed, the Sanin were having a brawl of their own. Jiraiya was struggling to hold Orochimaru in position so Tsunade could land one of her patent chakra punches on the pale Sanin. The targeted Sanin was showing them, despite being in 50s and with no arms, just how far his anatomical research had gone. Jiraiya and Tsunade concluded that their former teammate was now no longer human. Orochimaru, with the murder of our sensei and your inhuman experiments, you are no longer one of the Sanin, declared Jiraiya. Meanwhile, Kabuto dodged around Naruto, but fortunately Shizune had just completed a set of hand seals and exhaled a massive rolling purple cloud of poison at the dueling pair. It was only due to Naruto's draconic enhanced senses that he managed to dive out of the poison, away from Kabuto. Meanwhile, with gargantuan battling summons, Manda was snarling about making toad jerky and dragon dango, whilst the respective summons mentioned things about snake toothpicks and snakeskin wallets. Shizune gasped in pain as Kabuto dived out of the earth, shredding her Achilles tendon and several other ligaments and tendons in her right foot, which happened to be her predominate foot. Naruto snarled with rage and launched a Sealess Futon. Diatoppa Kabuto followed by a clone-assisted Kaiten. Great Fireball Jutsu which expanded rapidly. Suddenly Manda gave a shriek of pain. It appeared Tsunade had in her attempt to end Orochimaru and picked up and thrown the toad-sized Tanto, only for it to punch into Manda's mouth and pin him to the floor. Manda quickly vanished, followed by Gamabunta. Meanwhile, Naruto fell to one knee as he felt his calf muscles get ripped to pieces by Kabuto. Say goodbye, Naruto-kun. Mocked Kabuto only to find his arm trapped by ninja wire. Sealess cage buncheons. Gotta love the usefulness of no seals. Now for my next trick, right hand Rasengan. Naruto shouted and the spiraling ball appeared, then Naruto drove it into the medical nin's stomach. Left hand. Rasengan. Kabuto was now in agony, his stomach had just repaired itself from the first Rasengan and was now being ripped to shreds by the second. All you've got. Mocked Kabuto as he replaced himself with a log and hit Naruto cleanly in the left shoulder, essentially making the boy's arm useless. Then another precise strike left Naruto beginning to bleed internally. You've got 3 minutes until you die, I've severed the muscles around your heart, stated Kabuto, making Naruto cough out blood. Wheezing and breathing heavily, Naruto stared at the sound. In 3 minutes is enough to do this. Shizune, Tsunade believes you. Naruto summoned a clone. Kabuto stared at boy in disbelief as 2 balls of chakra which he had learnt was the Rasengan in both hands. And used 2 on my own, so hence the clone, but it's still dual Rasengan. Naruto screamed as he launched the 2 spiraling orbs into Kabuto's chest a 3rd and 4th times respectively. Orochimaru jumped to Kabuto's aid as the boy was shot backwards with the force from a cannon, crashing into and through several boulders. I'll be taking my subordinate and on my way. You've made your choice, Tsunade-chan. With that, Orochimaru managed to pull Kabuto to his feet, who was healing again. Lady Tsunade, Naruto needs your help. A voice called, but Tsunade didn't listen. She had probably made the worst decision of her life. Lady Tsunade, Naruto needs your help. The voice said again. Tsunade turned to find Shizune, crouched over Naruto frantically trying to heal him. Tsunade froze as she saw Shizune's hands were caked in blood. Flashback no jutsu. A young Tsunade knelt over a young boy with messy blonde hair, wearing a green pendant on a cord of ninja wire. Nawaki, you stay with me. Your Nichin is here. You're going to be okay, she said as she began her compressions to get the boy's heart going. It worked temporarily. Nawaki woke bolt upright, coughing blood, and collapsed, body spasming rapidly. Nichin, don't worry. I won't make it. I'm sorry. Tsunade stared as her baby brother smiled one last time and closed his eyes forever and died in her arms. Flashback no jutsu kai. I know flashback no jutsu. Tsunade Haim, I'm sorry, rasped Kota Dan, forcing breath out of his ruptured lungs, caused by a poison technique by Sunagakur but used by Kiri just 15 minutes earlier. Stay with me, Dan. Stay with me, growled Tsunade as she had done a few months ago with her little brother. I couldn't become Hokage. I'm sorry, love, Dan said, handing her the pendant back, the very same pendant that Nawaki had been wearing when he had died. It had been then that Tsunade had developed her hemophobia and superstition of death to anyone who wore her grandfather's pendant. I know flashback no jutsu kai. Tsunade's eyes hardened no more. I won't lose Shizune and I won't lose this kid. With that, she ran over to the downed Naruto and stuck her hands over the boy's chest. Within moments she had found the injury's internal stomach hemorrhaging, aorta clipping in several places including the ascension. His pulmonary and hepatic veins have been clipped as well as the ligaments and tendons in his left arm. It's amazing he's still alive, we need to work fast, Tsunade stated as her hands turned green. Shosen Jutsu. Master and apprentice murmured and their hands turned a vivid green as they began to slowly try and stem the internal bleeding. Tsunade's hands shook slightly due to her being of Senju heritage as well as Uzumaki. It meant she could tell if someone had slipped from being healthy to ill whilst she was using medical jutsu. Damn, he's losing blood. His lungs are rapidly filling. I've said to never stimulate cells with internal bleeding as the platelets and the hemoglobin may also multiply, but we must take this chance. She stated. Shizun's hand flickered blue as she immediately tried to hold back the blood flow as Tsunade whispered Saibo no Kasajutsu. Shizun stared, that jutsu, the cell activation technique, was a brilliant but unpredictable jutsu. The jutsu was said to be the pinnacle of chakra control, which was true to an extent. The finesse needed for medical jutsu was just amazing. It was because of this finesse control that ruled out the majority of men and some women from using medical jutsu. Tsunade waited as she activated a battlefield monitoring observation jutsu and her eyes widened. The jutsu was working, but appeared the boy's chakra was moving the effects of the jutsu around, avoiding the muscles and attending to the severed arteries and veins. Unbelievable, the additional chakra sources in this boy has manipulated by jutsu into patching up the veins and arteries that medical nins can't normally perform out in the field due to outside variables. Explained Tsunade, making Shizun nod. Tsunade looked around as Jiraiya landed heavily on the ground. Gaki. He okay, Tsunade Haim? Asked Jiraiya frantically. Tsunade grinned at her perverted teammate. She may not like training teams of children or be that concerned about them. Jiraiya to her had always been a wanderer doing as he wished, which she kind of loved about him. The other thing she liked about the man was whatever muse caught his interest, be it jutsu, teaching, peeping, he did it with full heart and rode that avenue up and down until it was finished. Gaki will be fine. He reminded me too much of Dan and Nawaki that I couldn't not see him as a Hokage in the future. You may have missed the altercation between myself and Orochimaru, but I'm going to be the Godame. She said as she removed her hands from the boy. As if by magic, Naruto sat up. Tsunade-san, I won the bet. With that, 2 clones materialized. One clone hinged itself into an armrest supporting the damaged left arm. Naruto began swirling his chakra into his hands. The clone began to spin the chakra in the left hand and treated the deal 2 Rasengans appeared in his hands. Naruto quickly dispelled the clone and the left hand Rasengan began to destabilize after 3 seconds. Needs work, but a dual Rasengan has been completed. With that, he passed out. The group made good time to Konoha. During the time on the move, Naruto was practicing his dual Rasengan. It was slow progress, but slow and steady was the ticket. Naruto had found that when creating one Rasengan in his hand, slightly unbalanced him. So as he had observed during the Chunin exam, Sasuke needed a run-up to generate the electric hand jab. He thought that if he started to run at his opponent and create the second, it should possibly cancel out the imbalance of his natural weight and the density of the Rasengan. So here he was, at training ground 9 charging at a tree, for the 5th time. Rasengan. Naruto called and the ball of chakra popped into existence. He began to run. True to his hypothesis, the imbalance lessened. Dual Rasengan. He felt his body flatten out as the second orb materialized and he slammed the orbs of chakra into the tree. Boom. The explosion ripped the tree apart, sending tree trunk fragments, branches, sticks and Naruto flying. Naruto landed on his feet, dragging deep trenches in the ground as he tried to remain on his feet. Lee and Tenten, who were in the training ground at a different portion, came hurtling towards the source of the explosion. Niji had said he would join them after his morning training with his uncle. The pair had become close after Gaara almost killed the Hyuga branch heir. Niji had also gone through some changes. He no longer obsessed about fate, but rather decided to assist his cousins in fulfilling their potential at Jiken. It was definitely showing. Hinata's skill had increased tremendously, but not as much as Hanabi. Niji, through the use of his Byakugan, noticed that Hinata's chakra, instead of methodically flowing through her body, it flowed much like a river. Perhaps the fault of Hinata's Jiken is not of her, but rather the element. Niji hypothesized as he launched the 8 trigrams 128 palms onto a dummy to a good job. From his uncle. Tsunade had by now been in office for 2 weeks and had managed to make large inroads into the mountains of paperwork the Sandame had died to get away from. How did Sensei become so unorganized? She thought as she stamped a night on a group of forms from the merchant district. Finally she reached what she deemed the important stuff, the shinobi records. She sped through the files writing approved on the records before stacking them in neat piles of 50 records, which were then bound in ribbon before tossed casually onto a steadily growing pile of approved forms that trembled on the desktop. Shizun. Tsunade called and the handmaiden apprentice rushed in to grab the towering pile of forms before carrying it out of the room. However, as the young woman left the room, the building trembled, sending her and the paper toppling to the floor. Only for Raito, Iwashi and Katetsu to catch the toppling piles of paperwork and Genma to catch the woman. Shizun. A voice yelled, followed by you. Had better not have dropped that paperwork. Genma eased Shizune onto her feet. Katetsu, help Shizune-chan with the paperwork, I'll deal with Tsunade-sama. She won't kill me, hopefully, as I'm part of the Hiration squad. You okay, Shizune-chan? Shizune nodded before blushing slightly. Yes, I'm fine, thanks. Thanks for catching me, Genma-kun. Genma stared at the girl as she and Katetsu hurried off. Now, she is one person I wouldn't mind seeing more often. I'd definitely say she would be one person I'd settle down for. It was quite known in Konoha that Genma could charm his way into the bed of almost any woman. Sakura was tending to the flowers in her garden at home, looking for a bouquet of roses of Sasu-kun when she felt the earth tremble shake. Baka. Destroying my hard work of making a bouquet for Sasu-kun. She growled, grabbing the bouquet in her kunai pouch. In the hospital, Haku had just changed the drip on Sasuke, who had been injured on an escort mission of Marino I date with Sakura, Lee, Hinata and Kiba. The mission was more or less uneventful aside from running into a Nukenin from Konoha, the thief of the Rajan no Kenner sword of the Thunder God. The personal sword of Senju Tabarama. During the scuffle the sword had been broken and Sasuke, Lee and Kiba had taken some bumps and bruises and in Sasuke's case, a stable fracture on his skull, hands and left leg. The explosion shook the ground. Haku waited for the shake to pass before changing the drips and shook her head. Naruto-kun, you've done something exceptionally stupid this time. Back with Naruto, he shook himself down to find himself staring at Guy, Lee and Tenten. Bushy brows, mega brows. Tenten, sorry about that. My training ground and training ground were being used, so I came here. Well, that explosion was the result of me getting the grips on my latest technique. The three shook their heads. What was the technique, Naruto-kun? Maybe we'll be able to help you shed some light on it so you can practice it without blowing up the training ground. Said Tenten with a grin. She liked Naruto as a little brother, the two had been in the orphanage together and were thick as thieves. Now they were both genin, she was hoping to rekindle that relationship. Sure, Nichin, it was a variation of the Rasengan. Lee and Tenten looked at him blankly. The swirly orb thing. Naruto explained, popping one into his hand. You mean the Yondame's technique? Why do you know it, Itachi? Asked Tenten curiously. S-class secret. Much like my hospital form anyway, I can make it in one hand. Jiraiya-san set me the challenge of perfecting or at least make some visible headway into his variant, the dual Rasengan. But that Naruto created the second Rasengan which quickly disintegrated. However, with a clone, I can make the second Rasengan. But Jiraiya, you mean Lord Jiraiya of the Sanin? Exclaimed Tenten with stars in her eyes. Naruto nodded, the exact same. I can't call him sensei due to some of his habits, but we have come to the agreement, I will address appropriately if he's acting so, if not, well, let's drop the subject. The problem is the moment I form the Rasengan, I am pulled off balance. The way I regain balance is to charge forward and form it on the run, but that tree was the result. Come with me, my youthful friend. The three of us shall help you gain precedence and a firmer grasp on your youth. And this gallant task of yours sent by the ever-youthful Jiraiya shall be complete. Exclaimed Guy before dragging Naruto off to a massive oaken pillar. Jump onto the top of that and assume the lotus stance and form the Rasengan. Instructed Guy. Naruto complied and suddenly as he began to topple to one side. Your balance is off. Tenten launch kunai. Instructed Guy. Suddenly Naruto snapped back to the center as he fell to the other side. Lee began to launch kunai. This is insane, Uber brow sensei, protested Naruto as the Rasengan began to destabilize. Concentrate, Naruto-kun. One thing you should have at least been taught is to find your center. Once you have, nothing is impossible. Instructed Guy harshly, not sounding like the laid-back sensei he was known to be. Naruto nodded. That was how Jiraiya found them around lunchtime. Have you found your center, Naruto-kun? Asked Guy. Naruto nodded high. Now what? Unleash the full fury of your youth and create the dual Rasengans. Ordered Guy. Naruto nodded, assumed the stance and to everyone's surprise and Jiraiya's glee, the Rasengans bloomed into emergence. That loud sensei you acquired is actually quite a decent one. The Kyuubi commented from inside the boy's mindscape. Why, thank you, almighty Kyuubi. Naruto replied sarcastically, causing the fox to let out a booming laugh. I may hate you, ninjin, but remember this lesson. I hate all my hosts, but I shall not have a weak one. Shut up, Kyuubi. Naruto, I do agree with the fox. This session will help you speed up your secondary elemental release training with that ever-wonderful Kori-san wielder. Naruto blushed and quickly departed his mindscape, leaving a snickering dragon and fox. Oh, Baka. A piercing voice shouted. Naruto slowly opened his eyes and jumped to the floor. Yes, Sakura-san? Asked Naruto drolly, absent-mindedly swaying out of her punch. How come you haven't been to see Sasuke-kun? She snarled, launching a fist at him, only to find it blocked by the bun-haired girl from the exams. Tenten, if she remembered correctly. If you're my Itachi's teammate, I see why he can't wait to become a Chunin. I'm Tenten, by the way. Before Sakura knew what was happening, she was flat on her face with her arm twisted painfully behind her back to the point the pinkette had tears in her eyes. Leave him alone. He is twice the man Sasuke-san could ever be, and 3 times the ninja the Uchiha could ever be as well. Because he never relied on his family name to carry him through life. Tenten growled. Cheers, Nietzsche and Anbu are coming. Means the old bat wants to see me or I'm being court-martialed for some offense I never did. Although the old farts could be trying a new tack to prying my summons from me. The Anbu-designated lizard arrived. Uzumaki Naruto, Lady Hokage requests she sees you in her office, you too as well Lord Jiraiya. Jiraiya and Naruto nodded to one another and in 2 shunshuns, one of ice and the other toads, they raced across the village. Shikamaru entered the office, shortly the window blew open and Naruto slid in. Lady Hokage. He said staggering as he bowed. The shinobi snickered at the blonde's antics. Naruto was always known for a good laugh either at his or someone else's expense. Genin's Uzumaki Naruto and Nara Shikamaru, from the reports given to me based on your progress in the Chunin exams and myself, I hereby promote the 2 of you to Chunin. As Naruto donned his flak jacket, the door to the Hokage's office swung open and the civilian council, elders and disgruntled shinobi entered. We the council object to Uzumaki's promotion. Haruno Maruki, A.N. Mirukai declared. Is that the shinobi council who objects or just some old farts and some ignorant fucks? Replied Jiraiya. Sensei. Ruining my fun. Stupid super pervert. Naruto finished with muttered, digging his nails into his palms, drawing blood ready to unleash his Uzumaki Kekkei Genkai. Jiraiya-sama, this doesn't concern you. Snapped another civilian who promptly doubled over as someone slammed a knee into his gut. Walk it off, only a minor hemorrhage, much like you gave me when I was 5, you fat fuck, snarled Naruto. Disrespect me, get disrespect back, disrespect my comrades, sensei, Hokage expect to have the 7 shades of shit smacked out of you. He finished, one eye flickering yellow. He's using the demon's power. Screamed someone only for them to find it hard to breathe. His eyes are yellow slag, not red. Learn the difference. Anyway, as my fireball of an apprentice said, I believe it concerns me. Jiraiya said, walking towards the council. Why doesn't my blonde-haired knuckle-headed apprentice not deserve his apprenticeship? Asked Jiraiya, chakra welling. He has no respect for his superiors, us or the council. Nor does he have any for his teammates. Thus all of those things counteract everything that being a Chunin stands for. Danzo declared. Tsunade snorted. I have records from Sarutobi-sensei, reading that every time Team 7 has had something go wrong on a mission, the blame is always blamed on Chunin Uzumaki Naruto. Anyone care to explain? It didn't take long for Tsunade to realize that the civilian council hated Naruto for 13 years ago. Chunin Uzumaki is a valuable asset to Konoha. Unless Chunin Uzumaki does anything to destabilize, betray or harm Konoha in any way, he shall be treated with respect that all shinobi have regardless of what and who he is. Now get out. The council scrambled and it also signed the death of the many desks to come of the Hokage's terrible temper. Naruto stared them off, his temper now under control, and Progenitus himself also calmed down. Naruto, now would be a good time to check Sasuke. Progenitus suggested. Lady Hokage, permission to go and see my teammates. Tsunade dismissed Naruto, who disintegrated into ice and sped towards the hospital. Disguising himself as a nondescript Chunin, he followed Sakura to Sasuke's room. Naruto dispelled the hinge, knocked and entered Sasuke's room, making Sakura jump. Baka. She shrieked, but Naruto clapped a hand over her mouth. Keep it down. Want me to get thrown out? Probably, besides the point. How is he? Sakura shrugged. He's stable. Which is a good, considering who he was fighting. Naruto nodded, as he turned to leave a spluttering was heard. The pair spun around to find Sasuke sitting bolt upright. Naruto, Sakura. He commented as he propped himself upright. Uchiha, nice to know you were only pushing the Z's and not the roses. Naruto quipped before leaving the room to only walk into Haku. Haku stumbled backwards to be caught by Naruto. Hey Haku-chan, when do you get off shift? Haku wriggled and faced her crush. 3 hours Naruto-kun. Why? Naruto's face turned red. He hadn't thought this part out. Want to go and get something to eat. He stammered out. Haku giggled and nodded. You asking me out on a date, Naruto-kun? Kid, just say yes. She'll appreciate it. Progenitus whispered. Yes, I am. Haku giggled, grinned and pulled Progenitus's heir into her arms. Here, 3 hours. Don't be late. She ordered. Naruto smirked and dissolved into ice, heading towards a training ground to get his ice release down pat. Naruto landed at the training ground, making his way to the pond in the middle of the ground. He assumed a meditative position and he began to practice his water manipulation. Age Bunshin no Jutsu. 20 clones appeared. 10 of you work on the second stage of water manipulation and the rest work with me on the third. Soon enough, under the power of 21 hours of solid training, the water manipulation exercise quickly came together. The time passed, Naruto sat up. He had just collapsed from overexertion from getting his water manipulation to a mastered level. Hijutsu. chains. Naruto shouted, launching 2 chains out of his wrists, pulling him to his feet and airborne. Haku just left the hospital clothed in a pair of baggy Anbu pants, shirt and her Chunin vest as Naruto slid to a stop. Chains hastily retracting into his wrists. "Aheo, Haku-chan. Not been waiting long?" asked Naruto with a massive grin adorning his face. Haku couldn't help but smile at the antics of her crush. "So where are we headed, Naruto-kun?" Naruto shrugged. "Wherever you wish to go." He quickly pulled out his wallet and quickly did the sums. "It's on me." Haku grinned, grabbed Naruto's hand, and the pair took off for the market. "Haku-chan, so you know. It is quite likely that the civilians will try to sabotage us. Due them hating me for circumstances when I was born," Naruto said as they moved around civilians and genin. "Oh well, as long as we can spend time together I don't mind," replied Haku. Soon enough the pair passed a fruit stand selling nashi and mikan, which Haku adored. Due to her upbringing in the coldest part of water country bordering blizzard country, her family saved these fruits for special occasions. "Naruto-kun, are those nashi and mikans?" asked Haku, quivering with excitement. The shopkeeper's eyes narrowed at Naruto. "I don't serve." He was cut off by Kakashi, who just happened to be walking past. "You won't serve one of the people who brought Tsunade-sama back?" he asked innocently with an underlying hint of steel. No, my apologies, how can I serve?" Haku grinned. "Can I get half a dozen mikan and nashi please?" The shopkeeper nodded. His hands flashed over the mikan and nashi under Kakashi, Haku and Naruto's careful eyes. He was half tempted to play subtle poison on them, but thought better of it. He knew Kakashi's reputation of being one of the most lethal shinobi in the village and that the Uzumaki brat was astonishingly fast. 20 ryo. Naruto's eyes widened and he quickly handed over the money. They ended up outside a cozy little tea house that appeared to have just